Assalamu alaikum and Eid Mubarak. If you're watching this right now, it is either Eid or you're watching this after Eid, but either way, you want to learn how to lose the Ramadan weight. That's right, if you're watching this right now, you probably gained some fat, maybe lost some muscle during Ramadan, and you might be feeling down about yourself. And I know how that feels because I've had Ramadans where I got fat, where I lost muscle, and I felt very frustrated and angry that I lost months of progress in the gym during a month where I should have gotten ahead. Now, I've also had Ramadans where I've gotten ahead and gotten results. I've also had Eids where even if I got fat during Ramadan, I was able to bounce back fast. And the good news is a lot of the weight that you've gained during Ramadan is water weight. However, if you end up continuing the bad eating habits and the bad lack of exercise habits that you may have developed during Ramadan, then the problem is going to get worse and you are going to gain weight. So it's important that whether you're watching this the day of Eid, a couple days after Eid, or even a couple weeks after Eid, and you've already continued those bad eating habits and gained some weight, that you stop now. It's never too late to change, but the sooner we change, the better. Just like how I always tell people in their 30s, let's fix it before your 40s. If you're in your 40s or 50s, let's fix it before your 50s and 60s, right? So we always want to take action and fix things as soon as possible. So let's actually dive in to a very in-depth presentation I have for you guys today. I'm actually very, very excited to present this one today because I've gone really super in-depth, and you're going to be pretty blown away by how in-depth I went with this. I left out no amount of information, and there are actually deeper videos coming out on each of these topics as well. But I'm basically going to give you everything you need for 80-90% of people to lose weight after Ramadan and Eid, and ultimately fix any weight that you gain during Ramadan if you're here to want to lose it and avoid gaining even more weight. Okay, I've got 6 steps that solve the 6 main problems that Muslims face when it comes to losing the Ramadan weight or their Eid weight and keeping it off for life, inshallah. So let's dive in and let's help you get fitter after Eid al Fitr. Get it? Little pun there. All right. So here are the 6. Oops, I just skipped the problems. Hold on a second. There we go. Okay. So here are the 6 reasons why we gain weight during Ramadan. Okay. And obviously then we're going to go into how to lose it. First off, it's water retention and bloating due to the short eating and drinking window that we have during Ramadan, as well as the food choices, especially if you're eating foods that are going to tend to make you more bloated, like fried foods, overly salty foods. Salt itself is not bad. Salt is actually very important for cognition, health, mood, performance. But if we're excessively eating salts because you're eating at these family iftars where things are just deep fried, over salted, everything, then obviously you're going to have a lot of water retention. When you combine it with the fact that you have a short eating window that kind of, stimulates your body to actually store more water than it otherwise would, okay? Messed up sleep schedule. This happens for a lot of people the entire month of Ramadan, but especially the last 10 nights when we're focusing on our ibadah as we should, right? But then if we want to be our best after Ramadan, we do need to fix our sleep schedule, especially considering that in the summer, Isha is going to be really late, Fajr is going to be really early, so we want to get that dialed in so that we're able to perform our best as Muslims during the summer, okay? Of course, we talked about bad eating habits during Ramadan, so unhealthy, calorie-dense foods, fried and oily junk, family iftars, binge eating. These things are all things that happen during Ramadan with most Muslims, okay? So it's very important that we fix that, and I'm going to talk about how to fix that, and I actually have some example meal plans in this video as well, okay? Lack of exercise and physical activity. That's a huge one. A lot of us, especially if we feel tired and drained, especially towards the end of Ramadan, we end up going to the gym less or just not walking around as much, not moving around as much. We're sitting at our desk feeling tired and cold. And you all know that feeling, right? We've all been there in Ramadan where you're in the middle of a fast and you feel cold, you feel tired, and it's just not a good feeling. But then you end up just kind of being lazy, taking extra naps. And there's nothing wrong with taking naps. In fact, especially if you're sleep deprived, it's important that you take a nap to kind of fix that, but at the same time, we become less active, which means we're burning less calories during the day, which means it puts us in a calorie surplus, especially when combined with bad eating habits, which is why we gain fat during Ramadan, even though we're not eating for half the day, especially when you're binge eating and they're calorie-dense foods and you're working out less and moving around less. And especially because it's hard to find the time and energy to hit the gym during Ramadan. A lot of people fall off on their fitness during Ramadan. Even if you're super into fitness, you might find that you're training less hard and less often, especially towards the end of Ramadan when we're prioritizing our ibadah as we should. But that's why I always talk about, hey, don't neglect your fitness, just scale back a bit, but keep it in maintenance mode. And I'll talk about how to bounce out of maintenance mode too if you were somebody who followed that advice and maintained your results during Ramadan, or even got good results during Ramadan. I'm going to show you how to excel after Eid. And of course, even if you neglected your health and fitness, we're going to talk about how to fix that after as well, inshallah. Okay, number 5, low motivation. So all the above can lead to low motivation. Definitely during the Ramadans where I felt fat afterwards, I felt very unmotivated. Well, sometimes I felt super motivated to fix it. I was like, man, I'm so mad at how fat I let myself get. But other times I've been like, oh man, I lost so much progress. It's so hopeless. Oh, and I was all depressed, right? So we're going to talk about how to fix that and how to renew your intentions, renew your motivations, and springboard yourself into high levels of motivation, discipline, progress, and momentum, inshallah. Okay? And obviously, we got to break the negative momentum that we may have established during Ramadan, where we're neglecting our health and fitness and eating unhealthy. Okay. Another reason why a lot of people struggle to lose weight after Ramadan is a lot of people lose muscle during Ramadan, especially if they weren't training and eating properly and consistently during Ramadan. And also, some people occasionally have a little, I mean, actually, it's pretty common, but not to the level of severity that you would think, where people have a slowed metabolism or some metabolic damage during Ramadan. At worst case scenario, your metabolism is only 10 to 15% slower than it was during Ramadan, because they've literally done studies where they starved people for months, okay, and their metabolism relative to their body weight only slowed down by 10 to 15%. Now, I think the numbers were like 25 to 30% total because they lost so much weight when they were starved. But the point is, like, I am still a believer in like starvation mode, because when you're starving, when you're not eating enough, you do get more tired, which makes you less active, which makes you burn less calories through your daily activity levels. But your actual metabolism, your basal metabolic rate, only takes, according to these studies, about like a 10, maybe 15% hit in most cases. Obviously, some people have a more adaptive metabolism than others, but metabolic adaptation isn't too bad. You know, you're only burning 200, 300 less calories per day, the average person, which we can easily fix within like a couple weeks after Ramadan, especially if you gain muscle. The problem though is if you lose muscle, that slows your metabolism down a lot more than metabolic adaptation to being in sort of a starvation mode, right? So really it's the muscle loss, the lack of activity levels, and of course the that slight bit of metabolic adaptation. But when you combine all three of those, that's why it's really easy to gain fat during Ramadan. It's kind of hard to lose it after Ramadan if you don't know what to do to fix that and fix all the above. But that's why in this training, we're going to show you how to fix all the above and more, inshallah. So I'm going to show you how to flush out the water retention and the bloating and improve your hydration without getting excess bloating. Okay, so after Ramadan, that's very important. Okay, I'm going to show you how to fix your sleep schedule, inshallah, and structure your comeback plan. I'm going to show you how to install healthy eating habits and delicious but healthy foods that satisfy your cravings and the flavors and textures that you're accustomed to and that you like, but while hitting the right macronutrients to ensure that we're getting results, okay? I'm going to show you how to get back in the groove with your physical activity, inshallah. So this is going to depend on whether you're a total beginner, whether you're more advanced, whether you totally neglected your fitness during Ramadan, or whether you were in maintenance mode, or whether you actually maybe even saw some progress during Ramadan. There are some differences, but a lot of similarities. I'm going to go through, obviously the details on that as best I can in a general presentation like this. Of course, it's always best to have a professional consulting you directly. So obviously, if you're one of my clients watching this and you're like, oh, Munir just put out a new video, I wonder what he's talking about. Don't worry, obviously, as a client, you're going to get us doing this for you, as you probably noticed reflected inside of your plans. I'm actually recording this on the last night of Ramadan, okay? And so actually this evening, Thursday, I have a huge block of time where I'm fixing all the client programs or designing all the new client programs for after Ramadan, custom to you, because obviously for each individual we have a custom plan. But I'm going to show you the principles behind each custom plan in today's video, so you know exactly what creates results, okay? And then we're gonna talk about how to fix the motivational issues. So for motivation consistency issues, we just have to find a deeper why and make the reason greater than the resistance, okay? But for deeper psychological issues, a lot of times binge eating, emotional eating, stress eating can be solved through what we do as coaches, but sometimes in more severe cases, especially bulimia, anorexia, you will probably need to go see like a dedicated, psychotherapist or psychologist who specializes in that specific area, because that's not necessarily our specific area of expertise. Even though we've helped some people with that, it's not like our, main area of passion and focus. So you may need to see a dedicated professional if you have more severe psychological issues stopping you from losing weight. But again, 80 to 90% of the population or more, we can fix those issues if you have binge eating, emotional eating, stress eating issues, unless it's super severe. And then we will briefly, throughout this whole thing, all of the stuff I'm going to be teaching about nutrition and exercise is going to show you how to bounce back and fix your metabolism and gain the muscle back after Ramadan. As we established that that's one of the problems that people have, in the previous slide. However, we will be doing actually a lot more videos that go deep into metabolism for specific metabolic issues such as hypothyroidism in future videos as well, inshallah. So if you're here on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. And if you're here on Instagram, make sure that you follow if you aren't already, inshallah. Okay. So anyways, we're going to cover all that today, inshallah, and it's a big presentation. You can probably see by the video duration, however long this video ends up being. So let's talk about water retention and bloating first. Point 1 out of 6, okay? So the first action item is to make sure that you're drinking plenty of water and consuming plenty of fiber, okay? So right now, it's nighttime, okay? So I'm drinking my water during Ramadan. But obviously on Eid, you can drink water throughout the day. However, you're not used to drinking water throughout the day, so you have to consciously remind yourself. And here's the beautiful thing is that if you front load your water intake, and this applies outside of Ramadan, it applies year round, anytime you're not fasting. But if you front load your water intake before dhuhr time, it's a lot easier to drink more water throughout the rest of the day because you get into this habit and your body starts craving water and your body starts flushing out water a lot more, which helps with getting rid of the Ramadan bloat. So this is why it's beneficial. So just front load your water intake before dhuhr. Consciously remind yourself to drink lots of water before dhuhr. Don't force it down, but just drink water throughout the day before dhuhr, and you'll naturally find that after dhuhr it's a lot easier to remember and you get thirsty more easily because your body is starting to get an abundance with water. So instead of retaining water like it does when you're fasting, where it's just, subhanAllah, Allah's created our bodies to be able to survive dire conditions. So obviously if your body's in the desert but your body is not retaining water and it's just flushing out water and keeps peeing, then you're going to die, right? So Allah has created our bodies to retain water during times where we're not intaking enough water. However, the problem is that if your body's used to doing that for 30 days in Ramadan, then after Eid, you don't know how to then communicate the opposite to your body to get your body to start peeing more, then you're going to end up just retaining a lot of water and it's going to be really uncomfortable. Kind of like this thing that I'm adjusting right here, the Apple Watch strap thing. And so then, again, you have to stimulate your body to do the right thing. And I'll give you an example. If you ever tried chugging a bunch of water at suhoor, and you notice even within a single day, even within a single meal, by chugging excess water, like 4 or 5 cups of water at suhoor, you end up going pee like 4 or 5 times, before dhuhr time. And then you get even more dehydrated later in the day. It's because when your body's in abundance, your body then releases hormones that cause you to excrete more water. However, later in the day, then you don't drink water for the rest of the day. So then after dhuhr, your body's like, oh wait, I need to retain water. So then your body at night, when you eat food and drink water after having not done so for so long, your body's going to retain a lot of water, okay? So we have to be able to communicate to our body abundance by drinking more water, okay? And to another extent, food, this does apply with food too. So like part of why our metabolisms can sometimes slow down in a couple different ways. Our basal metabolic rate slows down, our body temperature decreases because our body's expending less calories to produce heat because our body wants to save energy. We notice that we feel more tired because our body's trying to suppress our energy levels and our activity levels and our mental calorie expenditure, so making less calories available to our brain. And also, well, those are kind of like the 3 mechanisms by which our body tries to conserve calories. Then again, it's our body's response to not having enough food. And this is important too if you're in a really steep calorie deficit, which we're going to talk about why you shouldn't be in a steep calorie deficit and why you should be in a more moderate calorie deficit and how to create a deficit without starving, okay? So you can still enjoy your food. That's going to be the nutrition section. But this is why a lot of people, when they go into a calorie deficit, like a very deep calorie deficit, especially with low food intake as opposed to higher output and more moderate intake, then what ends up happening is a lot of people feel cold and tired as well, which makes it harder to stick to, and it sabotages your results and it requires you to do more cardio, which is annoying. You might as well just create the deficit through your activity levels, but keep your calories a bit higher so you feel good and you're still burning calories, and the amount of effort is, if anything, less, even if it might look like more on the front end. Not even like it's, and again, we'll get into that in nutrition, but I don't want to go too off topic here. This video is going to be 2 hours long. But anyway, so water. When you consume more water, okay, then what's going to happen is that your body's going to start peeing more and your body's going to be able to flush out all that water retention. Within a couple of days, you're not going to have all that water bloat that you get during Ramadan. Now, as far as, because there's a couple different types of bloat, right? We've got the water bloat where our body's retaining excess water, but we also have, if we're not eating enough fiber, then our body can sometimes just have a lot of food that's kind of just sitting in your intestines. We all know the Ramadan, constipation. Now, obviously, if you follow my previous YouTube video or some of my, Instagram videos where I talk about, the lentil soup, different fiber sources, different veggie sources that allow us to kind of avoid that Ramadan constipation. You're not going to have that much of this bloat, but of course, if you underconsume fiber during Ramadan, you're going to have issues with that as well. So make sure that you consume fiber, get veggies with every meal. With breakfast, you could do oatmeal if you tolerate that well, or sweet potato works really well too. They both have a lot of fiber. Okay, regular potato has a decent amount of fiber too, and regular potato does pair well with veggies at breakfast. You can put spinach in your eggs. There's a lot of things to do, or again, oatmeal has plenty of fiber in it as well. So you want to get some kind of fiber with each meal. Some people like to supplement fiber too. I don't really find that myself or my clients really need to supplement fiber because we're getting it in through our diet and through our nutrition. But again, this is important for getting rid of that intestinal bloat, okay? And so those are the first 2 types of bloat. Water bloat, which we kind of talked about at length. Intestine bloat, where there's food sitting in your intestines and your digestive system. There's other types of gastrointestinal distress where you might your body might be producing excess gas. So for instance, if you consume highly fermentable carbohydrates, such as broccoli stalks, for some people can cause issues. Onion and garlic can actually cause issues for some people, and for others, alhamdulillah, it doesn't, right? So there are different foods that might make you personally and specifically bloated that you need to start experimenting with cutting out. Gluten can cause a lot of gassiness and bloating for a lot of people. Sometimes increasing your protein intake can cause some issues, especially if you don't increase your fiber along with it, or if your body's not used to metabolizing that much protein. But eventually your body will get used to the protein intake. However, that's not always an issue for Ramadan. But again, if you're eating a lot of bread and a lot of fried foods during Ramadan, oh yeah, and excess oils can definitely sit in your gut and make you very bloated for a long time, which fiber does help with that as well. So that's more so intestinal bloat than gassiness bloat. Okay. Then we want to solve for all of those by generally, and you'll see in the nutrition section, I usually advocate for a low-fat diet because it helps you to keep your carbs higher and protein higher and still be in a deficit and still, satiate yourself and feel good and have energy and all that stuff and lose weight. Okay. But again, we'll dive into that in a second. But it's very important that you're getting in the fiber and you're avoiding foods that make you bloated. So you can also experiment cutting out dairy and gluten for a week. You can try cutting out a highly fermentable carbohydrates. If you want to Google low FODMAPs diet, it'll give you a list of all the foods that have highly fermentable carbohydrates. You can experiment cutting them out for just a week. Okay, anybody can stick to something for a week. I'm not telling you have to cut them out forever, and then slowly add them back in one by one to see which ones cause bloating and gas for you. Then you know for the rest of your life what foods make you feel like junk, and that makes it easier and more intrinsically motivated to avoid them, because you don't have to be like, oh, I'm avoiding this food that I love because Munir told me to. Instead, you're like, hey, Munir said I can eat this, but I don't want to eat this because I tried cutting it out and I felt a million times better and I want to feel good. Okay, so this is my little psychology hack to make you hate eating unhealthy food and make you actually enjoy eating healthy food, is to get you to focus on the energy and how you feel on a daily basis, not just how you look, but more so how you feel and how you perform the other priorities in your life, like your ibadah, your worship, right? How you perform at work, how you interface with your family when you feel physically good, as opposed to physically feeling bloated, crappy, tired all the time. Well, the payoff is so worth it that unhealthy food, even if it tastes good and gives you a couple minutes of pleasure, no longer even looks appealing, because you look at it and you say, okay, this is going to give me like 2 seconds of pleasure and 2 hours of pain physically, or even 24 or 48 hours of pain and tiredness. So you're no longer motivated to eat those things. So it becomes very, very easy to avoid eating unhealthy food and to stick to healthy eating, inshallah, and ultimately avoiding foods that make you feel like junk. Okay. So how much water is enough water and when should you drink it? Okay. So I mentioned before that kind of front loading it before the dhuhr is beneficial. Okay. But don't deprive yourself after the dhuhr. Generally, we want to aim, and this is like a super general recommendation. This doesn't account for like how much do you sweat, how hot and humid is it in your climate, how many hours do you work out per day, and how much do you sweat when you work out? Are you hitting the sauna? There's so many different like factors that factor into this. But the general recommendation for a good starting point to strive for as like a minimum is take your body weight and divide it by 2 is how many ounces that you should be drinking per day. So let's say that you weigh 200 pounds, 100 ounces of water. So, 8 ounces in a cup, right? Or 2 cups in one of these 16-ounce containers. So, let's just say 108. I think that's like 13 times 8. Doing the mental math here, 104. Yeah, I think 104. So it'd be like 13 cups of water, okay? So that's pretty simple. Or you could just shoot for a gallon. I mean, for some people, a gallon's a little excessive. Like if you're a 120-pound woman, a gallon is a little bit excessive unless you live in like, Bangladesh in the middle of the summer and it's hot and humid or whatever it may be. Or if you live in Indonesia or if you live in Sydney, Australia during the summer, whatever it may be. Or actually there's parts of Australia even hotter than that. Or if you live in like Florida or something, then maybe you would need a gallon, even if you're a 120-pound woman or a 120-pound man. But usually a gallon's a little excessive. And likewise, if you're 300 pounds, 150 ounces, that's a little more than a gallon. If you weigh 300 pounds and you drink a gallon a day, you should be good. But if you're 300 pounds, you could potentially, especially if you live in Florida and you're like sweating like crazy, you could try going up to 2 gallons, but just don't force it, okay? Because there is such a thing as too much water. And if you drink too much water, you can flush electrolytes from your body. Now, very few people have an issue with drinking too much water. Most people underconsume their water. But again, that ounces and a half, cut the ounces in half is generally a good thing to strive for. Don't be mad at yourself if you don't hit it. Just consciously focus on drinking more water. Baby self yourself up. And if you've never drank that much water before, don't try to do it in one day. In fact, if you've never drank that much water before, you could even consult your doctor first, especially if you have kidney disease, for sure, contact your doctor before following any of my water or protein advice. But if you don't have kidney disease, just work up to it if you've never drank that much water before. If you have drank that much water before, it's safe, so you can go ahead and do it. Now, obviously, this video would be like 3 hours long if I went into every nuance for every point, because we could talk about sodium, potassium, magnesium, calcium, the electrolytes as well. But in general, if you salt your food to taste, you drink water according to thirst, and if you underdrink your water, especially compared to your weight divided by 2 in ounces per day, and you shoot for that number, and you don't overdo it, and you don't force it, and you just focus on drinking a little bit of water before dhuhr every couple minutes or every hour. I mean, the sunnah way to drink water is actually to take 3 sips at a time seated and then say Bismillah, okay? the sunnah works. Okay, so if you just do that, you do that throughout the day before dhuhr, you'll be good to go. You'll get back in the habit of drinking more water, which will help you to flush out that water bloat. Now, to actually get yourself to sweat more, again, if you're a complete beginner, take it easy with this. But if you're somebody who has plenty of experience working out, before Ramadan you were working out, sweating a lot, feeling good, then this should be 100% safe, okay? It's lifting with shorter rest periods, especially now that you have more food and more calories and more carbs in your body and your intake is a little more consistent throughout the day. Your energy and performance should be better in the gym. So you can train with shorter rest periods. You don't have to go hard. Remember in Ramadan, I said, especially if you're training during the day where you're going to get dehydrated, you got to train with longer rest periods so you don't sweat too much. But now the Ramadan's over, you can train with shorter rest periods. Doing cardio, that'll make you sweat for sure. Sauna. Now, if you've never done sauna before, consult a doctor first. If you've done sauna before and you got benefits from it, then you already know it's safe, so you can go ahead and do it, okay? Just want to make sure that nobody ends up hitting the sauna for the first time ever and going for like 30 minutes and getting dehydrated and ending up in the hospital, okay? So if you've never done the sauna before, talk to a doctor first, especially if you have like, heart disease, kidney disease, any other, organ diseases, right? But if you've hit the sauna before and you were safe, you were fine, then that's a good way to flush out the water, okay? Sauna, steam room, as long as you've done it before. But as long as you're getting your heart rate up and sweating, this will also help you to flush out water and also make you more thirsty and drink more water. And I know some people who weigh I know this one bodybuilder and trainer at the gym, he weighs 160 and drinks 2 gallons of water a day. And he also hits a sauna every day and sweats a ton. So it's very dependent on the person. Remember, I said this is a very general recommendation, but there is a lot of specificity needed, okay? But again, like I said, if you've never done the sauna before or drank that much water, consult a doctor first, especially if you have kidney disease. Now, lastly, we also want to talk about gut health. So here's the thing. Personally, I take a probiotic, I take enzymes, I take this other supplement called Biogest, and I take foods that have probiotics in them, such as yogurt. I consume a lot of fiber, and I avoid oily foods, and I avoid stuff that makes me feel bloated, inflamed, gassy, all that stuff. And that's how I keep my gut health optimized. If I notice I start getting gassy or bloated or whatever, then I know that one of those factors is off, okay? Now, and so for instance, in the middle of Ramadan, about 7 days ago, or so not really the middle, but towards the end of Ramadan, I started noticing I was getting really bloated. I was like, what's going on? I realized I hadn't been taking my probiotic supplement. I've been taking my enzymes. I've been taking my Biogest. I've been eating my probiotic foods and my fibers. I've been avoiding my oily food and all the stuff that makes me bloated and inflamed, other than occasionally like doing a little bit of bread, because bread moderation isn't too bad for me. It's just if I eat bread like every day, I start to get that gluten bloat, okay? But I realized I was not taking my probiotic. And so I started taking my probiotic, and alhamdulillah, it fixed the issue for me. And now I'm getting pretty much minimal bloating, alhamdulillah. So other than like the water bloat just from drinking a bunch of water at the end of a fast, especially if you have carbs and water together and you just fasted, you can easily get very bloated. So anyways, just make sure that you're following these different protocols. And if you have questions on this or need help with this, obviously I introduced a lot of topics there that in the interest of time, I didn't really go like incredibly in depth into. I just kind of touched on them, but just to keep things simple, drink more water, take 3 sips of water every couple minutes or, at least a couple times an hour, okay, leading up to dhuhr, and you'll notice that naturally you drink more water throughout the day, which can help you to flush out that water bloat. Make sure you exercise at a level that's appropriate for you. Consult your doctor before doing anything that's, way beyond anything you've ever done before, whether it's water-wise, sauna-wise, or even workout-wise, okay? And make sure that your doctor isn't one of these people who's over-conservative, like, oh, you should only sit inside all day, you shouldn't work out at all, you might hurt yourself. No. Like a legit doctor who's like, yeah, you should work out, but you should ease into it, right? Those are legit doctors, okay? And then, and definitely avoid a doctor who says, oh, you're bloated, you should take these pills, but don't work out. And that's the worst doctor you could possibly have. They're just a pill pusher. You want a doctor who actually cares about getting you results and about your actual health, okay? Which, alhamdulillah, most Muslim doctors, I know a lot of doctors who follow me and actually a lot of doctors who are clients as well. You guys are legit, mashallah. May Allah continue to increase you and keep your intentions sincere. But there are definitely some doctors out there in certain fields who are more about pushing pills and meds than they actually are about helping people. And that's wrong. It's messed up. We should be focused on improving people's health, okay? All right, but anyways, so do that. Make sure that, I have a couple, I have a probiotic supplement that I like. I use the Seed probiotic. It was recommended to me by one of my mentors, and I really like it. I use... Bio-Optimizers, Masszymes enzymes. I use Thorne Biogest. By the way, none of these have gelatin in the capsule. I checked before recommending it to my clients before taking myself. Probiotic foods, the main one I do is going to be yogurt. And I actually digest that pretty well, Greek yogurt specifically. But I'm trying to think, is there any other probiotic food that I consume? That's pretty much it at the moment. I did used to do a lot of sauerkraut, but I haven't done that as much recently, although it does work. I probably should reincorporate it because I do like it with certain foods. And then fiber, I eat lots of carrots. I eat some spinach. I eat green beans, especially when I do carbs. I eat occasionally salads, but probably my main source of fiber is going to be like carrots and lentils at the moment, especially during Ramadan. However, after Ramadan, I'm going to be incorporating a lot more green beans because I'm going to be eating more rice and more potatoes. And I tend to find those things pair well together, both from a food taste perspective as well as from a digestion perspective. So anyways, optimize your digestion, drink more water, exercise, and get in your fiber, and potentially look into a gut health protocol, which can vary from person to person. And inshallah, it's going to make a big difference. And if you have severe gut issues, you can obviously talk to us, right? We have a lot of experience in fixing people's gut health issues because that is a big thing that holds a lot of people back from losing weight. We've been able to solve it for every client who's ever had it, except for one client who had some very severe gut health issues, who had to then see a gastrointestinal specialist doctor. But other than that, for the dozens and dozens of clients who have had gut health issues, possibly hundreds at this point, of the over 1,000 we've worked with, we've been able to solve the gut health issues, alhamdulillah. So let's talk about sleep schedule next, okay? So during the last 10 nights of Ramadan, my sleep schedule was I would go to bed around 6 or 8 a.m., okay? Is actually, because I'm recording this on, the last night of Ramadan, and I would wake up at about 1 or 3 p.m., okay? Now, alhamdulillah, Allah blessed me with an amazing team that handled a lot of my calls for me and a lot of the other things I have to do in my business, to where this year I had the luxury of doing this. However, last Ramadan, I was getting like 4.5 hours of sleep a night, and my health got wrecked last Ramadan because I was working 12 hours a day, okay? But now, alhamdulillah, I was able to have a much better Ramadan. However, if you're watching this, your sleep schedule might have gotten messed up like mine did last Ramadan. So again, there may be various things you need to do, and we're going to talk about scheduling in a second. So what I'm personally going to do is the last night of Ramadan, aka tomorrow, or like rather, the first night of Eid, so the last day of Ramadan, which the night is Eid, I'm going to try to knock out right away. So I'm not going to take caffeine like I've been taking the last couple nights before Tarawih, because it helped me focus more on ibadah. I'm not going to take caffeine. I'm probably going to actually eat a lot of carbs, even though, it may not be the healthiest. Just go to sleep on a huge stomach full of carbs. But I'm just being transparent about what I'm doing personally to hopefully knock myself out. And if I don't knock out, well, good luck. I'm going to have to be very tired on the day of Eid and just get one bad day of sleep and then fix my sleep schedule from there. Have plenty of caffeine Eid morning, make it through the day, maybe take a nap after Jummah, right? But that's pretty much it. But yeah, the intention, regardless of whether I successfully manage to fall asleep early or not, though, is I'm going to wake up early on Eid day, hit the masjid for Fajr, okay, go to the gym afterwards, go to the Eid prayers, family brunch, Jummah. I'm going to give myself permission to take a nap after Jummah if a nap is needed, or if my sleep quality wasn't good, or if I wasn't able to fall asleep. And then I have a family event in the evening as well, okay? But no caffeine after 10 a.m., okay? That is a hard and fast rule. This is the rule that I follow 100% of the time outside of Ramadan. I will never take caffeine after 10 a.m. Why? Because caffeine has a 6-hour half-life, meaning after 6 hours, half of it is still active in your system, and after 12 hours, 25% of it is still active in your system. So if you had 2 cups of coffee at 10 a.m., then at 10 p.m., half a cup of coffee, which is a quarter of the 2 cups that you had before, so half a cup total, is still in your system, okay, at 10 p.m. And now for some people, some uncles can literally drink coffee and go straight to sleep, okay? Some of my friends' dads, even my dad actually told me that caffeine doesn't affect him all. He can drink caffeine and go straight to sleep, which is crazy. However, for those of us who don't have that gift or curse, or however you want to label it, right? No caffeine after 10 a.m. because it's going to wreck your sleep quality. And a lot of people who take caffeine at like 2 p.m. to try to deal with the energy crash they get at 2 p.m. when there's actually much better ways to address the root cause on that instead of just band-aiding it with caffeine. A lot of our clients who have had that issue in the past, who were having sleep quality issues, by fixing that and fixing their energy levels through nutrition and cutting off caffeine after 10 a.m., we've successfully been able to massively improve their sleep quality and massively improve their sleep schedule. So that's something I'd highly recommend. Have as much caffeine as you want, well, within reason. Consult your doctor first, right? I'm not saying have 500 milligrams of caffeine, even. Like, I would get heart palpitations from that. But for me, the cap's 300 before I start to get side effects. And when I was younger, it was only 200. So my tolerance has increased to caffeine over the years. If you're a business owner or a busy professional, you know how it is. Sometimes you end up, especially a business owner, you have a lot of caffeine. Not that it's healthy. But again, don't exceed the amount that you would normally do, but feel free to have plenty of caffeine, but before 10 a.m., but no caffeine after 10 a.m. That's the key. Now, another thing you could do is you could stay up all night, okay, and then just not go to sleep and then just grind through it all day on Eid and then go to sleep by Eid night. And that will work, but your Eid day is going to be really just miserable and it's bad for your health. So I wouldn't recommend it, but it is a strategy that some people use. And some of my clients, despite me saying that it's probably not the best for their health, were pretty adamant about doing this. So, I mean, I'm going to try to convince them not to, but if they're like dead set on it and they're like, hey, I know it's going to work even if I have to make a sacrifice, then fine. But most of my clients, we've said, hey, let's not do that. Let's just, fix the sleep schedule another way, okay? But your target should be 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. Yes, even if you have kids, unless they're newborns, then I know it's impossible. But if your kids are like older than 2 to 3, again, the sunnah of our Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, I don't want to misquote the hadith, but I know it's, be your kid's friend until age 7, be their teacher from 7 to 14, and then be their mentor after 14. I'm messing up the hadith. Somebody drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what the proper hadith is, and I'll see if I can remember to search it up after this. But the point is, like, you shouldn't be this, hardcore, mean, disciplined parent and scar your kids for life at age like 3. But at the same time, you should be firm and have boundaries with them and be able to get them to bed so that you can have a, proper sleep schedule, obviously past a certain age. Okay. But anyways, the best thing though is if we can structure your day and then structure your next few weeks, this is going to help a lot. So this is something called the operating rhythm, which I want to give credit to one of my clients for. The concept of the operating rhythm, which was shared with me by one of my clients who's a very high level executive in his company, mashallah, and he does this for all of his teams who report to him, and it's very beneficial. So here's mine, okay, with my calls, all the different action items I need to complete inside of my business. So you can pause it here, you can screenshot this, whatever you want to do if you're watching this on YouTube. Now, so this is my weekly operating rhythm that I know I need for sustainability. I'll go into my workout routine later in this presentation today as well. Now, these are the different resources that I'm planning on putting out throughout the next couple weeks. So, I was actually going to record this last night. I'm recording it this night on Wednesday the 19th. But there are Eid resources, okay? I'm recording during these dates. Now, metabolism, I'm then going to be doing a hypothyroid, one, and I'm going to brush up on the course material from some of my mentors, and then create the PowerPoint, and then record it. So the bounce back your metabolism after Ramadan, the hypothyroid, and then, put it into my automation with a PDF, okay? Then same thing, testosterone one, I'm going to do the testosterone topic on like how to fix your testosterone levels after Ramadan, and then how to record your testosterone video in general, right, year round. Then I'm going to do one on PCOS, which is an issue that women have, a hormonal issue that many women have that make it hard for them to lose weight. Teach you how to lose weight with PCOS, okay? So that's my plan. So I've planned out the weeks, and I also have my travel schedule, which I'm working on, because I actually plan on traveling a lot this summer, inshallah. So you want to plan those things out, and it's going to get you excited and help you bounce back and get more motivation after Ramadan, but it's also going to give you more structure. And then make sure you structure your days as well, okay? And I'd recommend putting the times here, and then what I also did was I went ahead and actually blocked it into my Google Calendar, color-coded, so you can see all my client calls there. You can see the different like deep work blocks that I need to do, right? And so the screenshot I have here is just from 6 a.m. to like 5 p.m., but then I've got a lot of calls typically from like 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. as well. As you see, my Sunday through Thursday work rhythm, and then Friday for Jummah I take the day off, and Saturday I take the day off. But Friday I still work a little bit, just no calls. But anyway, so that's kind of the operating rhythm I've created. So you want to create the operating rhythm in a document first, then you want to put it into your calendar so everything is blocked off properly. So how do you create your operating rhythm in weeks? So first you need to make a list of all the different actions and outcomes that need to happen. So across Deen, so schedule in your prayers. As you can see, I schedule in my prayers here to make sure that I make them happen, during my workday, and I'm not scheduling any meetings that conflict with them. Oops. As you can see, like for instance, this day, because I'm booked on so many calls right after Ramadan, 12 to 4 that day I do have to pray Dhuhr at 4 p.m., so right before Dhuhr ends at 4:30. However, usually I'm going to pray Dhuhr, this block should be moved up here, around like 1 p.m. when it comes in, inshallah. So that's usually the timing I have it in. Now, so again, block in your Deen priorities, block in your business action items, outcomes, and priorities, block in your fitness. So you see I tend to block in my workouts as well, okay? I used to block in my workouts separately, but I see this as kind of one block at a time, because I do my workout, then I do the deep work, and it kind of just is like my me time is how I see it. So I kind of compartmentalize in my mind the same way, versus when I have calls, it's not me time, it's about the other person, whether it's one of my team members, whether it's a group call with my team, whether it's one of my clients, or whether it's a group call with my clients. It's not about me, it's about them. So I'm serving and giving of myself in those instances, versus when I'm working out and when I'm shooting content, I'm pouring into myself. And you also want to program in breaks. So my client who taught me about operating rhythm, he would actually, if he sees this video, he's going to laugh. I'm not going to say his name, but you know who you are, right? 12 to 4, he's going to be like, bro, you can't block in 4 hours of meetings. You need to take a break. And occasionally I will overstretch myself, but typically he recommends 3 hours of meetings, then take a break to pray, eat, relax, whatever it is, and have some me time to recharge yourself so you don't burn out. So that's something I'm working on too, right? So we're all working on different things. So fitness, family. So family time, I have that in the evening, so you don't see it blocked in here because it's past the screenshot. But I have my family time in the evening, typically after 7 p.m. So 7 to 9 p.m. is pretty much always family time. I often go to the masjid for Isha, but typically Fajr's the one I'm very consistent with, versus Isha I usually do at home because I'm spending, that's kind of my family time block. But anyways, so, and then how often do these things need to happen? And then how do you install in a way that flows both macro and micro? And then making that transition from your Ramadan schedule to your regular year schedule. And then also, like I said before, prepping for Fajr is early and Isha is very late. So I know I kind of skimmed through that one. So if you have any questions, please drop it in the comments. So I want to make sure that whatever questions you have on that, we're able to answer and address them. So now let's talk about nutrition and training. Okay, and these ones I'm going to go pretty in depth, especially nutrition, because this is one where I feel like there's the biggest lack of information online. And I would recommend, like, there's a lot of great professionals out there on YouTube who talk about operating rhythms. So I'd recommend Googling this as well if you want to go deeper into this, or drop a comment with a question. Always happy to help. So bad eating habits for Ramadan. Okay, so first off, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you what my clients are going to do, and I'm going to show you some examples. Okay, so first off, I'm going to be doing a very classic bodybuilding diet, but I always season things to make them taste good, and I have like this great recipe book, which I'll attach the link below. If you don't see it, if you comment below any of my Instagram posts with the word Ramadan, you'll actually get my Ramadan recipe book, which is a 45-page free guide that I put together. But I'll see if I can remember to put the link here on YouTube as well. But basically, I make it taste good while hitting bodybuilding macros. So for me, I go a little bit more extreme than actually my clients go. So I do 40 to 50% of my calories from protein, 40% of my calories from carbs, and only 10 to 20% of my calories from fats, okay? And I'm actually going to be ramping up my calories after Ramadan from clean carbs and proteins while keeping the fats very low and consuming high fiber with each meal, lots of cardio. I'm going to be ramping up my metabolism like crazy. So the combination of doing cardio, getting my step count up, eating all those carbs, eating all that protein, but keeping my fats very low, and then also getting my fiber in is going to, number one, ramp up my metabolism like crazy, but number two, flush out all the bloat. Okay. Now I also plan, inshallah, on doing Sunnah fasting every Monday and Thursday moving forward, and especially for Shawwal, those as well as the 13th, 14th, and 15th. So we get the Shawwal fast, and then occasionally I'll do a low carb day on like a rest day or a leg day, because leg day for me, I don't really need a lot of carbs because I don't really go that hard on legs anymore, because it's not really something that I actually want to get bigger. So I don't really go too hard when it comes to legs versus upper body, especially chest. I need to like carb load for 2-3 days beforehand to have optimal performance. Now, for most clients, we go with a more moderate version of the same thing. So protein accounts for about 40 to 45% of my clients' calories. Carbs account for about 35 to 40% of my clients' calories, and fats only account for about 15 to 20% of my clients' calories, except for people who are on either a carb cycling protocol, or for some of my diabetics who we've helped to actually improve their insulin sensitivity, we do use some low carb days to improve that. Or also, we have some people who have very big appetites, and cutting carbs from your breakfast, which I'm going to show in the examples here, can actually help to lower your appetite during the day, because carbs actually stimulate your appetite earlier in the day. They also do stimulate your energy levels though. So especially for my high performance athletes, we always got to get those carbs in. Okay. For many of my clients, I have them doing the Shawwal fasting. I'm not making it mandatory for them, obviously, but I always like to encourage my clients to do extra acts for ibadah, especially if it has a health benefit. But even like waking up for tahajjud, like, even if you have to sacrifice some sleep, it's definitely worthwhile. It's part of the culture of our mastermind for the program. So Sunnah fasting for Shawwal, definitely I recommend. And Sunnah fasting, is a little different from Ramadan fasting, because the consecutiveness of the Ramadan fasting is part of why we accumulate a lot of side effects. But we make that sacrifice for the sake of Allah, and that's part of the beauty of it, is that we make a sacrifice in the dunya for our akhirah. And there's also a lot of barakah and benefits for it in the dunya as well. But yeah, so this is all going to help to ramp up metabolism, and we're also going to ramp up your step count. So like I'm actually going to talk about this more on the workout side. I think that this is also going to help with fixing your metabolism when used in conjunction with this nutritional strategy of low fat, higher carbs, higher protein, right? I'm going to talk about how calorie deficits work as well in a second, so you understand how we can achieve fat loss in addition to losing water weight and increasing your metabolism. And I will say this isn't in the slides, but for many clients, I'm actually going to be doing slightly higher calories for the first 2 to 4 weeks after Ramadan, especially those who suffered severe metabolic adaptation, and doing a reverse dieting protocol to get their metabolism faster and build some muscle so that we have a longer runway when it comes to losing the weight. However, for many of them, this isn't actually required, because actually most, like 90% of my clients actually lost a lot of weight during Ramadan, like body fat, while maintaining and or building muscle and strength, which is pretty awesome. I was actually a little jealous. I saw my clients, like most of my clients were losing 2 to 3 pounds a week during Ramadan. Like on the roundtables, I'm like, man, all you guys are winning. Meanwhile, I'm only losing like half a pound a week. You guys are lucky, mashallah. But alhamdulillah, man, it all comes from Allah. So, and alhamdulillah, I mean everything. All of this comes from Allah. The knowledge, the content, the viewers, the clients, everything. So alhamdulillah, and may Allah make this content a means by which you, the viewer, that's right, you, the viewer, can gain a lot of value and get a lot of results across every area of your life, inshallah. We're going to talk about that in the motivation section too. Okay, so, and then of course, the recipes, those were mostly created for my clients because I don't really mind eating boring myself. But for my clients, a big part of this is, hey, let's create a system that allows you to stick with this for the rest of your life so you can get your results and keep them for life, okay? And the point is to get my clients to still love the food, but still be able to hit the macros needed for fat loss. And for many clients, about 10% of my clients, the goal is to gain muscle, but for 90% of my clients, the primary goal is to lose fat. Now, so that's what I'm doing. That's what my clients are doing. What should you do? I'm going to go into a couple of meal plan protocols, but honestly, what you should do is just join the program if you have the financial means to do so. However, if you're in a position where money's tight, maybe you're like a student, or maybe you just started your business and it hasn't really taken off yet, or you just started your career and, you borrowed money from your family or hopefully found a riba-free loan, you're paying that off, or you're in a tight financial situation for any reason. Maybe it isn't reasonable for you to invest in a personal trainer or a fitness coach right now, which is fine. So then that's what this free content is for. So you can, invest the time and figure it out on your own. Especially people who don't have a job or people who are a student, you probably have more time than somebody who's running a business working 8 hours a week. So you have time to go through my free content and learn all the stuff and apply it versus somebody who's working a lot, making a lot of money. They don't have a lot of time, but they have the money to be able to hire a professional and delegate out the planning of this to figure it out for them. So if that's you, you're in the second category. I'll attach the program info link below, or if you're on Instagram, just comment with the word coaching, and I'll send you all the details on how our program works as well as the pricing. And then if you're in a tight financial position, just go through the free content, study it. We've got a ton of free resources to help you figure this out on your own so that everybody can benefit, whether they can afford to hire us or not, inshallah. So here's part 2 of how to overcome bad eating habits. So there are 3 kind of general categories I'm going to address within this video, okay? So there's people who are what I call uncle mode / auntie mode, okay? Uncle mode, auntie mode, which means that you eat whatever you want, and it's typically oily fried foods, curries, lamb with rice and butter and extra oil. You eat desserts every day, multiple times a day, So for somebody like that, you only need to make a couple small changes to actually get a lot of results. Like all you gotta do is just not put excess oil in your food, okay? Which is basically the principle behind most of our recipes. We just increase the protein, lower the oil, keep the carbs generally the same, or maybe a little lower, but usually the same. And that's pretty much how you make all these, desi recipes, Arab recipes, all that stuff healthy. And then we, figure out, and then that's the cool thing is because you're eating, fiber and carbs, you don't really crave desserts as much, okay? And then we also got to kind of break that habit around like, why do you got to eat dessert all the time? What are you celebrating? Okay, you're celebrating life. Why don't you celebrate life by being healthy instead of eating dessert all the time? Like, it almost makes no sense to me why some people just eat dessert all the time. Like, oh, I have to have dessert after every meal. I have to eat chocolate and cakes and all that stuff every day. Now, for some people, if they try to go too low in their carbs, you start craving sugar excessively. But if you're eating enough carbs, you shouldn't have excessive sugar cravings. And it's not that hard to overcome these things. And even if it's a little bit of stress eating / binge eating / emotional eating, when you start working out, you start managing your health and fitness, you start surrounding yourself with the right people. What we notice with clients is that they overcome that stuff extremely easily when it comes to unhealthy eating, overindulging in sweets with a combination of the nutrition plan, the mastermind, and the environment, as well as the healthy habits around physical activity that we install. However, in more severe cases, psychological help may be needed, but for people with a minor case of just overindulging in sweets every single day, just a little bit of that mindset coaching, that environment, the nutrition plan, and everything else, and the physical exercise helps to overcome those excessive sugar cravings all the time. Okay, so that's the first category of people is uncle and auntie mode who are eating excessively oily, excessively sugary foods, where they just need to cut down on those things and get on a proper meal plan, up the protein, lower their oils, lower their sugars, and go for walks. And literally, that'll get them to lose a bunch of weight. Okay. Now, the second category of people is people who watch what they eat. So I watch what I eat healthy, okay? But you've never tracked or planned your macros, or maybe you've tried, but you've never had proper guidance on how to go do so, to where maybe you improperly tracked your calories, or maybe you went too low and suffered some of those energy, hunger, and lack of sustainability consequences, or the muscle loss consequences that a lot of people experience when they try to do this on their own, okay, without the proper guidance. And people in this category as well, I mentioned it, but it's actually here on the slide as well. They've done a few low-calorie restricted diets that maybe they lost some weight from, but they lost some muscle, they messed up their metabolism, and they ended up actually bouncing back, gaining all that weight back. But instead of gaining muscle and fat back, they just gained fat back, so their body composition has slowly become worse over the years, even though they've been working out and trying to eat healthy, okay? So the first thing I will say, is that a lot of foods that are marketed as healthy foods are actually not healthy at all. What you need to understand is how to learn and read macronutrients. And I actually have another video that goes very deep into macronutrients, so I'll do more of them inshallah. It's very important to understand how protein, carbs, and fats work. And what I'll do is on YouTube, I'll attach a card with that video, and I can't remember what keyword I use on Instagram for that particular one, but I'll figure out how to get it to you guys. I'll probably just put the link on YouTube. And if you're watching this on Instagram, if you comment below with the word Eid, I'll send you this full free YouTube video. Okay, super in depth. And then the resource will be like in the links or in the card on this section of the thing on YouTube. So if that's you and you already watch what you eat, you already have some discipline. You're already health conscious. Okay, you just need to get a little bit more education about how macronutrients work. Okay, and how calorie deficits work in a more sustainable way. So how to create a sustainable calorie deficit as opposed to just a restrictive, unsustainable calorie deficit. And then you just need a strategic, structured, proper approach, which I'm going to talk about on the next slide. And then if you're an advanced athlete, you also need the strategic, structured, proper approach. So let's talk about the strategic, structured, and proper approach to creating a sustainable calorie deficit as opposed to an unsustainable calorie deficit. Okay? So the worst way to achieve a calorie deficit is to go on an excessively low calorie diet, because when you go too low in calories, it reduces your TDEE, which stands for total daily energy expenditure. And it's almost impossible to stick to, okay? So the best way to achieve a calorie deficit is actually by keeping your calories a little bit higher. So the lowest you ever want to go in your calories is your basal metabolic rate, which I'm going to show you how to calculate that in a second, which the calculator is not always 100% accurate, but it's a good, ballpark. And the second component to creating a sustainable calorie deficit is by using filling, satisfying, and delicious foods to ensure that the deficit is easy to stick to. So if you're eating more, how is a deficit achieved then? I have people who came to me and they said, hey, I'm on a 1,400 calorie diet right now, but I lost some weight, but now I'm stuck, or I can't stick to this forever. And I tell them, hey, based on your body weight, I would actually have it on 1,800 calories. They're like, well, how am I going to eat more and lose weight? Well, the key is to learn how to burn more calories through your metabolism, through your muscle mass, through your activity levels, and through your step count, through walking, cardio, or sports, okay? And that's what it says on the slide right here, muscle mass, activity levels, and steps, parentheses, walking or cardio, okay? So let me show you the examples, okay? So what we're going to do right now is we're going to do a live demo of the calculator, okay? So I put a bunch of examples on here, but we're already at like 45 minutes for this. So let me just breeze through these real quick. So for me, I'm 28, okay? 210. Now there's always somebody who comments says, oh, you're 28. Well, I'm 48 and your advice doesn't apply to me. Yeah, why don't you check out my testimonials from guys who are 48 who have gotten crazy results for, or even I have a guy who's 72 who got crazy results for. I have a lady who's 63 who got results for. Wasn't an issue for them, so it shouldn't be an issue for you. But anyway, so I'm 28, 210-ish pounds, and 5'11", okay? And then I'm about 12% body fat. So I'm going to show you. So my basal metabolic rate, according to this, is 2,100 calories a day, and that's the lowest I'll ever go, okay? Now, basal metabolic rate means the amount of calories that you would burn per day if you were in a coma or you laid in bed all day, okay? So this is how many calories you're burning per day if you have no activity whatsoever. Now, only use this number. The only thing that this calculator is good for is this number. Why? Because this is an estimation. Sedentary, therefore you burn 500 more calories. Well, what if somebody's so sedentary they don't even burn 500 calories? This number is inaccurate, right? So it says light exercise. What does light exercise mean? Does it mean going for one 10-minute walk a week? Or does it mean going for a 10-minute walk after every meal every single day? Which is a great way to get 30 minutes of cardio a day, by the way. Well, the latter, this might be closer, but for the former, not so much, okay? So what I do is I wear an Apple Watch, okay? And I have a strap so I can put it here so it doesn't mess with my typing. And I like to wear this all the time. Now, is Apple Watch accurate? No, it's actually pretty inaccurate, but at least it gives you a ballpark measurement and allows you to track your activity levels over time. It allows you to track your step count, okay? So this allows us to generally get an idea for a deficit, and there's actually a much better way to calculate exactly how many calories you're burning, which I'm going to talk about in a second. But I just want to show you a couple other examples. So let me actually show you this. So let's say that you're also 5'11 and 210 pounds. You're like, wait, how does this guy weigh the same as me? And he's the same height as me, but he has a six-pack and I don't. Well, it's because I'm 12% body fat right now, which is actually kind of high for me. I'm actually trying to get low down to 8% again. But let's say that you're watching this and you have a pretty big belly and you're actually 30% body fat and you're the same height and weight as me. You actually only burn 1,800 calories a day. So the fact that a larger percentage of my body weight is muscle and a lesser percent of it is fat, the fat has less to do with it, but the muscle is everything to do with it. So the fact that I have more muscle in my frame than you do because my body fat percentage is lower at the same weight, so I have more muscle and less fat, that more muscle is why my body burns almost 400 more calories per day. Because if you look at the 30% body fat, somebody who's 210 at 5'11 28 years old, male, 30% body fat, only burns 1,810 calories per day, basal metabolic rate, versus somebody with the exact same height, age, gender, weight, who's 12% body fat, has way more muscle because they have 18% less body fat, okay? And so 18% less of their total weight of 210 is body fat, and 18% more of it is muscle, which means 18% times 210, let's just say 18% times 200 is 36. So by having 36 more pounds of muscle, you burn 2,118 calories per day. That's almost 400 more than the previous stat, which was 1810. Okay, so that's one example of how muscle actually helps you to burn more calories per day. Okay, now let's say that I'm going to stick with the same weight actually, and I'm going to say 48. I'm going to show you how age factors in. Okay. Oh wow, look at that. Actually, this doesn't even factor in age. So this is not completely accurate because somebody who's 48 is probably going to have lower testosterone than somebody who's 28, higher cortisol, higher estrogen. So that, let me actually see what this calculator does for female. Oh, it says about the same. So I guess that doesn't matter quite as much. That's a tall woman, 5'11", but So it looks like the main factor here. Oh, you know what? I think it goes, if I take out the body fat part, 48, it's going to say 1845, 28, it's going to say 1845. Okay, so as you can see, these calculators aren't perfect, but it's a good way to get a general idea of where basal metabolic rate is at, and then we can factor in other stuff. And it's weird. I don't mean to like toot my own horn, but I almost have like this uncanny ability to literally look at somebody's face, look at their body, talk to them, feel out their energy, look at their height and weight, and pretty much know exactly what calories to put them on. And I think I haven't been able to quantify it into scientific, replicable terms, but there's something that happens when you've worked with hundreds of clients where you just develop this gut instinct. And like my coaches also have this, like, because my nutrition coach, she's a nutritionist, she's helped. So on the female side, she works with our female clients. She's helped hundreds of people lose weight already because she also works in a weight loss clinic where she has like dozens of people come in every single day who she successfully helped lose weight. Now, my male assistant coach / head nutrition coach and technique coach on the men's side of things has also worked with hundreds of clients, many of them through working with me over the period that he's been working with me. And so as a result of that, they've also developed this really strong gut instinct. So there's something about working with a highly experienced trainer who's had a bunch of successful transformations where they almost have this gut instinct where they know how many calories to put you on. And it isn't always 100% accurate. I'd say it's accurate about 80% of the time. 20% of the time, there's some adjusting that needs to happen within the first couple of weeks. But generally, between the general principles I teach with nutrition, as well as just our gut instinct, we're able to get it right off the bat. So again, I haven't been able to quantify it in scientific terms. Maybe by the time I've worked with 10,000 clients, inshallah, I'll be able to put it in scientific terms. So stay subscribed so that you have that video in a couple of years when we get there, inshallah. But this is something that can largely be quantified this way. Now, before I kind of develop this gut instinct though, the best way to calculate this, I'm going to talk about this point is important too, but I'm going to quickly jump to this point right here. The 3 to 7 day food log, okay? So the 3 to 7 day food log is the easiest way that anybody can figure out exactly how many calories they're burning per day. All you have to do is track the exact foods and exact measurements of everything you put in your mouth for 3 to 7 days. Now, a lot of people have like trauma or like PTSD, so to speak, around like tracking their calories. Like a lot of people, the second I say tracking calories, their mind immediately shuts off and they're immediately opposed to it and they immediately are narrow-minded to anything I have to say. However, if you're open to the idea of tracking it and you're open to the idea that maybe it isn't as hard as it was the last time you did it or as you think it's going to be if you've never done it before, and you're willing to try downloading a free app like MyFitnessPal or Chronometer. They have paid versions of those too. I have the paid version of Chronometer. That's what I like. I usually have my clients use MyFitnessPal because that's synchronized with my app so I can literally see exactly what they're eating. And the free version does that too. Just put everything you eat for 3 days, okay? 3 days. You can, if you're serious about losing weight, you can commit to 3 days. If you can't commit to 3 days of tracking your food, how are you going to commit to losing 30 pounds, right? And I'll talk about the motivation in a future slide in this presentation right here. But if you track everything you eat for 3 to 7 days and you track your weight every single day under consistent conditions, first thing in the morning, after using the bathroom, before eating or drinking anything, okay? And you track that for 7 days more ideally, let's start with 3, and you track how did your weight change. Now your weight's going to fluctuate a little bit of water, which is why 7 days is better. But if your weight stayed roughly the same when you account for all the fluctuations, and you take the average calories and the average weight or the change in weight from the beginning to the end, right? If your weight stayed the same and you ate, let's say 2,300 calories, then you know that between your basal metabolic rate and your daily activity levels, as well as there's 2 other factors that go into metabolism, but those are kind of the two main ones, that go into your daily energy expenditure. then you know that those two things add up to about 2,300. Really, the four things that determine how many calories you burn per day add up to 2,300. Now, let's say you're wearing an Apple Watch at the same time too, which I highly recommend, and the Apple Watch says you burn an average of 500 calories per day. Then you know that your basal metabolic rate is 1,800 because you take the 2,300 you ate to maintain your weight, you subtract 500, your basal metabolic rate is roughly 1,800, which means you shouldn't go below 1,800 because remember what I said on the previous slide, I never like to have people go below their basal metabolic rate in calories per day. And all you got to do is just do an extra 10 to 20 minutes of walking per day or some extra cardio or some extra working out to get Apple Watch to say 700, and now you're burning an extra 200 to 2,500 calories per day. And all you have to do is reduce your intake from 2,300 to 2,000. And now you're in a deficit of 500 per day because you're burning 2,500 according to this and according to your 7-day food log. And you're consuming 2,000, which means now you're in a deficit of 500 calories a day, which is exactly the amount of the exact deficit you need to be in to burn a pound of fat a week. Because a week is 7 days, 500 calories a day, 7 days a week is 3,500 total. 3,500 calories is the amount of calories you need to burn to lose 1 pound of fat. Okay? So what does that mean? Well, it means that now you can be in a deficit and you still get to eat 2,000 calories, which I'm going to show you what a 2,000 calorie diet looks like on a future slide. And you'll see that it's actually a decent amount of food. Okay? So I'm going to go into that slide in a second. Okay, I talked about Apple Watch being somewhat inaccurate, but it is a nice rule of thumb. And I talked about the professional meal plan, how my coaches and I have like this weird gut instinct for this. It's kind of hard to describe in scientific terms. Like I can't just say, if I look at you and look at these things, I can kind of tell how many calories you need to eat. Like it's hard to quantify that, but here's how you quantify it in the scientific terms I just went through. Now I want to talk about TDEE and why it's lower in Ramadan. Now, here's an interesting thing. If you've been tracking your steps during Ramadan, whether it was on your iPhone, whether it was on an Apple Watch, whether it was on a Garmin, whether it was on a Fitbit, whatever you have, or I think Android tracks your steps too if you have it on you at all times, okay, which most of us do, then you might have noticed that your step count was lower most days in Ramadan than it was before Ramadan. So if you want your metabolism to be pretty much just as fast as it was, aka your total daily energy expenditure to be just as much as it was before Ramadan, pretty much all you need to do is get as many steps as you were getting before Ramadan. That will take care of most of it. And then, if as long as you get on a good diet, like what I'm going to talk about right now, then the combination of those two things should put you in a pretty significant, position to lose the Ramadan weight. And then if you plateau, you could always either talk to us or put yourself in more of a deficit in a way that's sustainable, that is still enough food volume that you don't feel hungry. And I'm going to show you how to get like higher volume meals, which is going to help with that, such that you're now in a deficit and you're able to lose weight. Okay, and then there's certain points when you hit a plateau where you have to do a reverse diet to fix your metabolism or speed up your basal metabolic rate if you've had more severe metabolic adaptation. I have another video on reverse dieting. Check it out on my YouTube channel or comment below with the word metabolism if you're on Instagram, or if you're on YouTube, just literally go on my channel and find the video that says how to lose weight by eating more. Reverse dieting explains. It's a 45-minute video to show you exactly how to do this, but that'll help a lot. Okay. But anyways, the universal principles that are going to boost your metabolism without having to go into all these complexities is if you gain muscle, you increase your step count, you hit the proper macros that I specified on the previous slide, okay? You optimize your sleep, as I talked about in the previous slide, a couple slides ago, 7 to 9 hours a night, or as best you can, at least more than what you're doing right now, okay? You handle your stress a little better, which I have other videos that go a little more deep into this because we don't really have time because we're already at 57 minutes, okay? You get the water intake, what we talked about the other one. You get your gut health, we talked about the other one. If you do these 7 things, then your metabolism is going to get faster. Your total daily energy expenditure is going to go up. And assuming you eat the same amount of calories you're eating right now, you're going to lose fat. And if you reduce the amount of calories you're eating right now, as long as you don't go below your basal metabolic rate, you're actually going to lose even more fat even faster. Okay, so it's pretty simple. Now, the other thing I want to mention is, why does a low-fat diet work well? Well, there are tracer studies, which Lane Norton cites them all the time, that show that 98% of your body fat originated as dietary fat versus only 2% of your body fat originated as dietary carbohydrates. Now, the reason why sometimes when you eat more carbs, you gain more fat is because if your body's already using those carbs for energy and you're already in a calorie surplus and then you eat more fat on top of that, that fat can be more easily stored as fat. So it's not the carbs themselves that are being stored as fat. Only, again, 2% of your body fat originates as dietary fat. Your body actually prefers to oxidize carbohydrates for energy, for heat. It's part of why when you eat a lot of carbs, you get really high and your performance in the gym goes up, and sometimes you have a lot of energy, but sometimes you crash because your body has to release a bunch of insulin to store the carbs. And especially when you have a lot of carbs and fat together and your insulin levels are elevated, that can cause you to store a lot of fat. But what then happens is, if you've already eaten a lot of carbs and you're in a surplus and then you eat fats, pretty much all that fat gets stored as fat. Versus when you're in a deficit, if you eat even if you eat a high fat deficit, okay, you'll still actually be losing weight to where those fats aren't really going to get stored as fat, to where, it's a little bit less important, especially if in your surplus, you're trying to lean bulk, keep your fats low, carbs high. But the reason why I still like to have carbs high and fats low in a deficit is it allows you to eat more carbs, which means more energy. You feel more full because carbs retain water. Okay, so every gram of carbohydrates retains 3 grams of water, which is going to fill you up a lot more and keep you feeling full and good and all that stuff. Digestion, energy levels tend to be better. Metabolism tends to be better. Performance in the gym is way better. Okay, for most people, that's why I tend to prefer that. Now, there is a small percent of people who feel better on kind of higher fats, lower carbs, or sometimes we have diabetics where we kind of have to keep the carbs a little lower on certain days, especially non-training days. But typically these things work well. Just be mindful of types of fats you use. Some people claim that there are studies that show that saturated fat doesn't affect your cholesterol in a negative way, but most, meta-analyzed, peer-reviewed studies do indicate that saturated fat increases your cholesterol. So if you have cholesterol issues, generally you want to keep the saturated fats lower and generally go for olive oil is really good. Nobody can, now some people, because studies have shown that canola oil lowers your cholesterol when compared with butter, but studies have shown that olive oil does the same thing just as well, and equal to canola oil, and inflammatory, markers are lower with olive oil compared to canola oil, which is why I tend to be more of an advocate for olive oil. Plus, I just feel like crap when I eat canola oil. Now, there's a lot of very popular videos. I actually took down my video where I was talking about not eating canola oil just because it was getting so much hate. And I just hate comments, to be honest. And I just hate negativity. I don't like seeing Muslims being negative towards fellow Muslims, people arguing in my comment section, being very nasty to each other. I don't like seeing that, so I'm willing to sacrifice my own views and my own success to avoid all that impoliteness, okay? I hate impoliteness. It's one of the worst qualities a person can have, aka rudeness. If I post this splice up, again, I do actually really get some good benefits from avocado oil, but a lot of people are arguing, they're saying avocado oil is too expensive. Well, just don't use that much oil. You shouldn't be using that much oil anyways if you follow my nutrition principles. Because for the reasons I stated above. But olive oil is great. Yes, olive oil is expensive too, but just don't even use that much oil in general. It's a lot better to go. So regardless of your stance on seed oils versus not, I'm still anti-seed oil, regardless of what certain people say online. I'm still very anti-seed oil. And I don't like it, and I noticed that I just physically feel like crap when I eat seed oils, like canola oil. I get so bloated, I feel like crap, okay? So olive oil is great, avocado oil is great, coconut oil, I'm not even going to go into this because I know my editor is going to splice this part out and then it's going to get the same hate comments as the last one. But regardless of your stance on oils, just eat less oil in general, or which oils to use. Regardless of your stance on which oils to use, eat less oil because you want to keep those calories low, because every gram of fat has 9 calories versus every gram of carbs and protein only has 4 calories, okay? That every scientist can agree on. All right, that was way too long of a tangent. These are all my videos are over an hour long. So let me go into the next component. So how do you structure your meal plan? Okay, so breakfast, complex carbs and lean proteins with low fat, or if you have a very big appetite, you could also go lower carbs and always high protein. You always want to go high protein, but then we would go medium fats, and that's a good way to kind of prevent the carb crash, or the lower, because what happens is even if you eat complex carbs, this is why I don't recommend these for Sahur and Ramadan, but even if you eat complex carbohydrates, your blood sugar is going to go up, but then your blood sugar is going to go down, which is why you get hungry at lunchtime. Now, if you eat more complex carbs for lunch, your energy levels stay good, you satisfy your hunger, and then you get hungry again at dinner time, no problem. But if your appetite is already excessively huge, then you want to kind of avoid carbs in the morning, and this is a nice little hack that works really well for most people. There's always anomalies. I actually have a guy who gets hungrier if he eats steak and eggs in the morning. His body's just such a carnivore that he eats steak and eggs in the morning, he gets hungry, his body just wants to eat meat all day, versus oatmeal actually keeps him full for longer. But most people, for me, if I have oatmeal for sahur, I get hungry at 11 a.m. sharp, versus if I have eggs or steak or whatever, or lamb in the morning, then I don't get that hungry later in the day. So again, everybody's different, but that's generally what works well. Now, for the middle meals, right, complex carbs and lean protein, I'm going to give an example of this in a second, low fat, or again, reverse for big appetites. Generally want to go low fat still for lunch, and generally just protein and veggies if you're one of these people with a big appetite who wants to kind of have a bigger meal at night. But for most people, again, complex carbs and lean proteins during the day, right? And then for dinner, you could also do complex carbs and lean proteins, or if you want to eat something fattier, like a nice ribeye steak at the end of the day or some salmon, you could lower the carbs, up the fats. Or if you're somebody who hasn't eaten carbs all day, you've been eating, moderate fats, high protein all day, but no carbs, then you can do what's called carb backloading, where you have all your carbs at night. And no carbs at night don't make you fat. That's a myth. And we're already kind of over time on this video, so I'm not going to talk about it today specifically, but if you want me to do a myth-busting video on the myth that carbs make you fat, then I'm happy to do that. Just comment down below, let me know, and I'll do it, inshallah. Now, the last thing is we need to make sure we hit your protein and calorie target. And if you want to do this right, you want to keep those fats and carbs dialed in, as I said before. As I also mentioned earlier in this, if you're in a deficit, those things don't necessarily matter per se, but they matter more so for your energy levels, your performance, your satiation, more so than they do for fat loss if you're in a deficit, but there's also many factors that this depends on. So let me just show you some examples of all of the above, okay? So let's say 2,000 calorie diet, so 2,000 calories and 230 grams of protein for a 250 pound man who's 35 years old and 5'9", okay? So let me just show you quickly the math, okay? So let's say that we have a man who's 35, right? 250 and 5'9", okay? So his basal metabolic rate is just above 2,000. So let's say that we put him on 2,000 calories and 230 grams of protein, which is a little bit less than a gram per pound in body weight and a little bit more than a gram per pound in lean body mass. Generally, 230 is what I would gut instinct put a 250 pound man on. But I would also talk to him about his dieting history, training history, and if he was brand new to this, that'd be a little bit too much protein if he never tried to eat more protein in his life. Like if he's only eating 50 grams of protein a day, even if I up him to like 100 to 150, that's going to be sufficient for him to see much better results because it's a lot more than what he's currently doing. Also, if I have a guy who has a smaller appetite and the idea of eating the amount of food required to hit 230 is so much, I could try putting him on 150. I actually have a guy who started at 245 who's 30, right? And he actually only needed 150 grams of protein a day to recover optimally, benching over 2 plates on each side, everything. And somehow he's still recovering optimally on half as much protein as I eat, and I weigh less than him. Okay. And he's managed to lose a ton of weight, boost a ton of strength. So mashallah, he's genetically gifted in that his body utilizes protein very efficiently. But anyways, I can go on tangents about my clients all day. Let me dive into the info on this. So what does this look like? So if he has I forgot to specify the quantities here, but if he has half a cup of oatmeal with 1 cup of fruit and a protein shake in the morning, that's roughly 50 grams of carbs, 50 grams of protein, 500 calories, and very minimal fats, okay? And let's say he works out in the morning, he has a post-workout protein shake, it's 50 grams of protein, 2 scoops, I forgot to specify 2 scoops, okay? Of most, good whey proteins, 50 grams of protein, 250 calories, okay? So now we're at a total of 750 calories, 100 grams of protein for the day. For lunch, if he has 8 ounces of lean meat like chicken, and you can make that, curry style just with no oil, you can make it biryani style with some rice. Just make sure you use my low-fat biryani recipe that's in the recipe book, okay? So he has 50 grams of carbs would be half a cup of rice or 2 cups of potato or a combination, right? That's my biryani recipe actually has potato and chicken in it. It's really, really good. And a little bit of Greek yogurt, okay? It's very, very good. It's one of the fan favorites. And you have half a cup of veggies with that. It's about 50 grams of carbs, 50 grams of protein, 500 calories, minimal fat. Notice we don't really cook this with oil. My biryani recipe uses a little bit of oil, but very little, okay? As opposed to being super oily, which is why regular biryani makes you fat, is if you put too much oil in it, okay? Now, a snack between lunch and dinner, he has a protein bar and a Chobani Zero Greek yogurt. It's 30 more grams of protein. Actually, it's 31, but I'm rounding. 30 grams of protein, about 250 calories. Actually, if it's a 170 calorie Quest bar, it's actually only 230 calories, but we're just rounding here, okay? And then dinner, if he has an 8 ounce ribeye with 1 cup of veggies, it's about 50 grams of protein, 500 calories. So the total for the day is, let's see, 750, 1250, 1500, 2000. Boom, there you go, 2000 calories. So if his basal metabolic rate, as we calculated in the calculator, is roughly 2,000, it's 2,059, but we're going to round it down to 2,000. He just needs to burn 500 calories a day through his daily activity levels, which Apple Watch is going to give you a rough estimate, okay? And he'll lose a pound of fat a week. If he can burn 1,000 calories, then he'll actually lose 2 pounds of fat a week. If he can burn 800 calories a day and we reduce the calories, maybe he doesn't need a snack, down to 1,800, he'll also lose 2 pounds of fat a week. And that's how the math works out, while also being able to eat a lot of food. This is a lot of food. Most people would actually struggle to eat this much. However, if this sounds like nothing to you, or you try this and you feel really hungry, then you could also try the big appetite example, okay? So what this is it's 1950 calories, okay? 237 grams of protein. I was a little bit more specific with the calculations here for the same guy who's 250 pounds, 35 years old, and 5'9", okay? So for breakfast, 3 eggs with 2 Chobani Zero Greek yogurt and 4 ounces of 95% lean, burger patty with ketchup and a 1 scoop protein shake. So he's really hungry in the morning, and I'll talk about what to do if you have no appetite in the morning too. Okay, that's 750 calories, 90 grams of protein. Now post-workout, he has 1 scoop of protein, 125 calories, 50 grams of protein. Lunch, he has 8 ounces of chicken breast, and that doesn't have to be bland. You can put plenty of salt on it, plenty of curry powder, plenty of tandoori powder, plenty of shawarma seasoning. You can even make shawarma chicken. It's one of my recipes in the book, okay? With half a cup of 1 to 2 cups of salad or veggies, okay? So we up the salad volume a little bit so it's a little more satiating for lunch, even though after that big breakfast, he's not gonna be that hungry. It's 300 calories, 50 grams of protein. So you see what we do there is because the fats are higher in the breakfast, the fats are lower in the lunch, but the protein is high in both, and the carbs are non-existent in both of those, and we have all of our carbs in the evening. where he then has 2 cups of diced air-fried potato with 8 ounces of lean sirloin steak, which is 650 calories, 50 grams of protein. Okay, and late night snack, because this guy's got a big appetite, 2 Chobani Zero Greek yogurts, which is 120 calories, 22 grams of protein. The total of this adds up to 1950 calories, so 1,950 calories, 237 grams of protein. And you could also spread it out. So I show, if that breakfast is too big for you, why is my slide not going here? Here's how you can split it up. So maybe for breakfast, he only wants to have 3 eggs with 2 Chobani Zero Greek yogurts. That's still a very substantial breakfast. Now, mid-morning, he wants to have 4, and you can mix these. You can have, lunch earlier. You can have the, lean meat burger patty later. But yeah, let's say you do 95% lean grass-fed ground beef, 4 ounces with, the ketchup, the veggies, and the 1 scoop of protein shake. Again, we just move that down to be a mid-morning meal. Okay, post-workout, he still has 1 scoop of protein instead of 2, which we did in the carb example. Lunch, he has 8 ounces of chicken breast with 1 to 2 cups of salad or veggies. And then for dinner, he has the same nice big dinner. And he still has the same late night snack. It still totals up to the same. We just split it up differently to make it work better with his appetite and lifestyle, depending on who he is. Now, if you don't have an appetite in the morning, you could do 2 scoops of protein shake for breakfast. I still recommend front-loading that protein beginning of the day, get your body in an anabolic state, increase the number of total protein spikes throughout the day to optimize your metabolism, your muscle protein synthesis, all the other things we need. Lunch, 8 ounces of lean meat with half a cup. So basically the exact same thing as what I had on the, or no, actually, sorry, it's a little different. So same lunch as the other one. 8 ounces of lean meat with half a cup of rice, but I upped the veggies to 1 cup instead of half a cup because it's a little bit more satiating, a little bit more food volume. Because if you didn't have breakfast, you're probably gonna be a little hungrier at lunch for the person who doesn't have an appetite in the morning. And then for dinner, you'll probably be a little bit hungrier at dinner too if you didn't have breakfast. And for this person, it's maybe somebody who has no appetite in the morning. Those people tend to have a big appetite at night is the pattern I've noticed, which is why I generally like to get them to eat more in the morning so their appetite's smaller at night. But if this works better for you, you can try this. 8 ounces of ribeye with 2 cups of potatoes and 1 cup of veggies, which is 50 grams of protein, 750 calories. That's a little more than I usually like to go for a meal. And you're definitely going to get a bit of a food coma after eating 750 calories, but it's for dinner, so it's not as big of a deal. The only problem is I generally still don't like that because then I don't want you to be tired from Makar Manesha because you got to show up to Allah with the best person you can. Okay? The best version of you who's focused and has energy. Okay? But for the purpose of example, late night snack, protein bar and 2 Chobani Zero, 320 calories, 40 grams of protein. The total is 190 grams of protein and 1820 calories. Now for most guys who are 250, 190 grams of protein is actually sufficient for most guys who are 250 because it's still 1 gram per pound in lean body mass. However, if somebody who needs a little more protein than average, you might need more. Like if I weighed 250, I would probably need like 350 plus protein because I weigh 210 right now and I still need 250 to 300 grams of protein even at 210. That's my optimal zone where I get the best results. And I've always needed more protein than most guys who weigh the same as me. Now, my favorite of all those different meal plans is the classic bodybuilding one, which is very similar to the first example I said. But instead of 4, I used to do like 4 to 5 meals a day when I had a little more time on my hands and my business was a little bit less busy. But nowadays, what works best for me is 3 meals a day. And this typically works better for my clients because, again, my clients and myself, we typically work 40, 50, 60, sometimes 70, 80 plus hours a week, depending on the person. Plus, most of my clients have kids to where it makes more sense to just do 3 meals a day. It's generally a little bit better. Okay? Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Now, this video is already getting a little too long, so I'm going to kind of breeze through the next couple slides. I have an in-depth 2-part series on exactly how to set up a strength training routine. So, we're not going to go super deep into that here. I'm just going to talk about how to get back into physical activity after Ramadan. But for the strength series, if you're on Instagram, comment below with the word strength. And if you're here on YouTube, just search through my channel for strength training for fat loss part 1 and strength training for fat loss part 2, which are the 2 videos I'm going to send to you if you comment below with strength on Instagram. They're already here on YouTube if you're here on YouTube. Okay, so during Ramadan, you have a few categories of people, okay? Those who completely neglected their health and fitness and lost muscle and gained fat. Those who at least tried and put an effort to maintain the beautiful amana that Allah has given us, which is our body. And therefore their muscle loss or fat gain were a lot more minor. Okay, but they're still looking to get back into it after, but at least the damage was a lot more minor because they watched what they ate. They still tried to work out. Even if it wasn't quite as good during Ramadan, they still maintain a little better. Category 3 is people like my clients who got even better results in Ramadan, 2 to 3 pounds a week of fat loss, which is amazing. We also have some guys who gained muscle during Ramadan, mashallah, which is awesome because they stayed dialed in and disciplined. And then there's also another category of people, which I'm going to admit that I fall into this category, okay? People who did really well until the last 7 to 10 days. And actually, for me, it wasn't that bad. I was losing fat up to the last 7 to 10 days, but then I started staying up all night, doing a lot more ibadah, scaling back on business and fitness to where I didn't lose results, but my results kind of plateaued the last 7 to 10 days. So I don't quite fit into this category, but The category though is people who did well until the last 7 to 10 days and then gained a bunch of water weight, possibly some fat, messed up their sleep and diet, and stopped training. So for me, I did gain some water weight, but I doubt that I gained any fat. Actually, when I was scripting this out in the beginning, this whole video, I'm planning it out, I thought that I'd gained maybe a pound of fat, but then that water kind of went down after a day and I realized it was just water. Now, I actually kind of fall into category 5 as well because I'm feeling super worn out, especially because I did heavier deadlifts than I planned on last night. I incorporated deadlifts back into my routine to kind of fix my posture, which I had cut them out before Ramadan, and that was a mistake. So I added them back in, but I went a little heavier than I planned last night because I was training with a friend and we kind of pushed each other a bit. And so I have felt very burnt out the last 24 hours because deadlifts are a lift that drains your central nervous system more than any other lift, and to do them during Ramadan when your recovery isn't optimal is somewhat of a bad idea if you're going to go hard. If you're not going to go hard, it's fine, or if you're not super advanced. But for an advanced athlete like myself, going hard on deadlifts, even outside of Ramadan, is very taxing on the central nervous system. But especially during Ramadan, I overtrained a bit and burnt out my CNS by the end of Ramadan, which is why the last 24 hours I felt pretty burnt out and worn out. So the solution is pretty simple for most of these cases. All you got to do is ease back into training, focus on consistency, hit your workouts, so your lifting sessions for building muscle, maintaining muscle, 3 to 5 times per week. Start with lighter weights, focus on form. That way you still get a really good workout from the lighter weights and you set yourself up for success and safety moving forward because your form is good. Keep your intensity solid, which using really good, strict, slower form is a good way to do that, especially with lighter weights, to get your intensity up, and then increase your step count to what it was before Ramadan, if you were getting results before Ramadan, or if not, or if you were very sedentary before Ramadan, so under 6,000 steps a day, try to increase it to at least 6,000 to 10,000 steps per day, as long as that's more than what you're doing before, and that is all you really need to do on the training side when combined with a good diet to get results. But of course, you have to achieve that calorie deficit, and this will typically get most people on a calorie deficit when combined with the sustainable nutrition principles I talk about in that in my other videos. Now, as far as the lifting routines, okay, my exact routine that I'm going to be using after Ramadan, inshallah, is Sunday is chest, rear delts, and triceps. Monday is a Sunnah fast and a rest day. Tuesday is legs. Wednesday is shoulders and arms. Thursday is also a Sunnah fast and a rest day. Friday is back. And Saturday is a regular rest day. Okay? Now, here are some of my client routines. The 3-day men's classic routine, which obviously there's some variations on this depending on the person, but typically if a guy is training 3 days a week, I have him do Monday, legs with a quads emphasis, chest and back. Okay, Wednesday we do legs with more of a hamstring emphasis, so more so deadlifts as opposed to squats, versus the quad days more like lunges, squats, all that kind of stuff. And then also on Wednesday, so we got legs with a hamstring emphasis, back and shoulders. Okay, Friday we do an all upper bodybuilding day, so upper chest, rear and side delts, biceps and triceps, okay? And we sometimes sprinkle in a little bit of ab work, and we do a lot of core work during the warm-up to warm up the body, and sometimes we'll do some direct ab work afterwards, especially once guys get into that sort of 12% body fat range and you can actually see your abs. That's when we start to sometimes incorporate some ab work, but training abs won't get you abs, okay? Training abs and having a strong core will prevent back injuries, but to get abs, you need to get to 12% body fat or less. And for some people, they got to get as low as 8%. I have a guy who's in that 10 to 12% range, and he's looking really lean, but he doesn't quite have the six-pack yet because that's the last place he's storing fat. His stomach looks lean. He even has a line here and a line here, okay? But he doesn't quite have that six-pack yet because for him, he's probably going to need to get to like 7 or 8% to have a true like chocolate bar looking six-pack. You know what I'm saying? Like proper, like you can see all 6 packs, if that makes sense. Okay, now the women's classic 3-day split is Monday, legs with a squat emphasis, chest and back. Wednesday is a complete booty building day, so just glutes and legs with a little bit of core. Okay, Friday we do legs with a hip hinge emphasis, so deadlifts, good mornings, that type of stuff. Versus on the Wednesday we actually use hip thrusts as the main strength lift. Okay, which I usually don't have guys do hip thrusts. I haven't had any guy who said, oh, I need to get a bigger butt, okay? Especially us, like if you're Pakistani, if you're Arab, we kind of naturally have big butts anyways as men, to where it's not always the most aesthetic look, but we do make sure we get glute activation to keep our legs safe on squats and deadlifts and keep our back safe. That's important, but we don't necessarily emphasize building your butt to be huge, whereas a lot of women like to have a big butt, okay? Because obviously men find it attractive, so a lot of sisters want to be attractive to their husband, so obviously, and then also it's just healthy for your knees and back. And then, so for women, again, Friday we do legs with the hip hinge emphasis, so deadlifts and good mornings are kind of hip hinge exercises, shoulders and arms, okay? Now on Monday, we still tend to do stiff leg deadlifts, but it's not so much a heavy deadlift as it is Friday, okay? Now, the 4-day men's classic bodybuilding routine is a little more bodybuilding-ish, right? So Monday is legs, so we always get it out of the way, okay? Tuesday is chest and rear delts. And we start our week with discipline by doing legs first. Tuesday is chest and rear delts. Wednesday is active rest day. Thursday is back. Friday, shoulders and arms. The active rest day is optional, but a lot of guys who train 5 days a week want to just keep that regularity of, hey, I exercise every morning, or hey, I exercise every night, or hey, I exercise every day at lunch, or hey, I exercise in the morning and lunch, or morning, lunch, and night. I actually have a guy who works out every day at his lunch break and at night, mashallah, and the guy's crushing it. I think he lost like 15 pounds in his first, 6 weeks. He started shortly before Ramadan. So mashallah, may Allah continue to increase him and give him results. Although the problem is his metabolism did slow down the last week of Ramadan, so he didn't lose any weight the last week of Ramadan, but it's all good. We'll speed up after Ramadan. He's actually somebody who genetically I could tell that he is somebody who his metabolism speeds up very quickly if I fuel his body with carbs, which is part of how he lost weight so fast, because he was already training really hard before he started with us, but it was dialing in the diet, speeding up his metabolism that made the biggest difference. And fasting, unfortunately, is something that slows down his metabolism a lot for guys of his sort of demographic and body type. So what we're going to do, inshallah, after Ramadan is we're going to ramp up his calories, ramp up his carbs, keep his fat super low, and he's going to be blown away because he's going to be eating a bunch and losing even more weight. He's going to be like, subhanAllah, right? The guy's amazing, by the way. He puts in the work. He actually competes with me on Apple Watch. He's actually beating me this week, mashallah. He's getting 600 points every day, and there was 2 days where I got a little less than 600. So you know who you are if you're watching this, and he sees all my Facebook videos, mashallah. So that's the men's classic bodybuilding routine. It's funny because there's a competition class called the men's classic bodybuilding. So whenever I say men's classic, the next word that naturally comes out of my mouth is bodybuilding, even though these routines are geared towards fat loss with muscle growth as part of the pathway by which we drive fat loss. Okay, so the women's classic 4-day routine is Monday, squats, legs, and glutes. Tuesday, chest and rear delts. Wednesday, active rest day. Thursday, deadlifts, back, legs, and glutes. Okay, so we're always emphasizing a little more lower body for women. Friday, shoulders and arms. Okay, now, what are the best forms of cardio? The ones that you enjoy, okay? So functional sports or something that gives you a multiple return on your investment in time. With cardio, I always want you, with really anything, I want you to get a multiple return on your investment in time. We're going to talk about in the motivation section of this long video today, right? So what are some things that you enjoy doing that reduce your stress, they're fun, they're great for camaraderie? Well, basketball or football or whatever sport you enjoy doing, that could be one of them that you could utilize for your cardio, okay? A lot of my clients like doing this, especially some of the younger brothers, but even some guys in their 30s and 40s love playing basketball, okay? We even have a mufti in the program who loves playing basketball, mashallah. He's like the coolest mufti I ever met. And you know who you are. I tag him on Instagram all the time, so you guys probably know who he is too, okay? Boxing, MMA, these things are great, okay? It's important to know how to fight, especially as a Muslim man. Swimming and horseback riding, these things are actually sunnah. Archery, I put archery in there too. Actually, I don't know if I have a client who does archery actually, and I have a couple friends who do archery, and I have a couple guys who do horseback riding. I have a lot of guys who like swimming. Rowing is good too, so some kind of sport. These are good ways to do cardio, and the purpose of cardio is to burn calories to get you into a deeper deficit. Now, another thing that you can do for cardio is you could also find a way to just zone out and get work done. So I'm using my standing desk right now and actually have a treadmill under my desk. I put the treadmill away because I'm not trying to be doing a treadmill for over an hour while I'm doing this video at like 12 a.m. or it's 1 a.m. now. This video is like an hour and 20 minutes already, subhanAllah. But this is a good way to kind of just zone out where you're doing your work and get a couple steps. And I go really slow. Sometimes I walk backwards on the treadmill because it's good for your knees to actually walk backwards. And even if I'm only going at like 0.2 miles an hour, if I work for 3 hours while I'm walking backwards, I get like over 10,000 steps and burn a ton of calories. So I'm passively burning calories, which is great. And I just got this. Now in the past, what I did was I would take calls on the phone while I was walking. But the thing is, a lot of my calls are on Zoom, which is why the under the desk treadmill is better. Plus I do a lot of deep work. Okay, but usually for deep work, I try not to do the treadmill because I focus better. But when I'm on calls, walking actually helps me keep my energy levels up. Now, another thing you do is you just incline walk at the gym, and I usually respond to my Instagram DMs, my WhatsApp messages while I'm incline walking at the gym. I'll review when my editor sends me videos to make sure the captions are correct and make sure all the graphics are good. So I usually do that while I'm doing incline walk. Some of my clients like doing the elliptical. So I even have a guy who likes doing the Stairmaster, which I think he's crazy because I hate the Stairmaster. But hey, you know what? Allahumma barak, bro. Mashallah. I admire his discipline, his commitment, and his hardcoreness, okay? Another thing you can do, here's your third version of getting a multiple ROI on your cardio, is you can go for an outdoor walk. And now here's the thing, if you want to get more good deeds while you're doing it, do dhikr while you're walking. Listen to Quran while you're walking. Or you could read Quran while you're walking on the treadmill. Actually, that's something that I was actually doing a lot before Ramadan because I was doing a lot of cardio, is I'd find like Quran with English translation, I'd put it on the treadmill, and then I'd be doing my treadmill and actually, doing that during a lot of my cardio. You can listen to a podcast about business, about fitness, about nutrition. Listen to one of my long hour and 20 minute YouTube videos, or this video is probably gonna be like an hour and 45 minutes, subhanAllah, probably my longest YouTube video ever. There's a lot of stuff you can do, okay? Or you can go enjoy nature and de-stress. See, this is the benefit, is you're getting additional benefits. You're either getting barakah, you're either learning, or you're reducing your stress levels as opposed to going and doing HIIT cardio. Everybody like wants to do HIIT cardio because it increases your metabolism a little bit. Yeah, it does, but it also increases your stress. And if you already have a lot of stress from kids, work, business, everything else, and you add more stress onto it and your body's already struggling with this recovery capacity to recover, especially if you're just trying to ease into things after Ramadan, it's a recipe for disaster. So that's why I don't like HIIT. I prefer low intensity, steady state cardio, because the whole purpose of doing cardio is to get you into more of a calorie deficit so you can eat more while still losing weight, and making that cardio or that activity level or those walks or that form of getting more steps something that gives you multiple returns on your investment, whether it's fun, camaraderie, playing basketball, whether it's sunnah, swimming, horseback riding, or whether it's just do it while you're working. Under the desk treadmill is the ultimate hack for people who work 12 to 16 hours a day. I have a guy who works 100 hours a week. We got one of those for him. It's helping him a lot, alhamdulillah. Or go for a walk outside to lower your stress and give you some personal time and space. Or even take your kids to the park. Okay, you take your kids to the park and you have more energy because you're following my nutrition protocols. Guess what? You're going to go play with them and you're going to get a ton of steps and burn a ton of calories. I have a client and she got 1 or 2 nights ago 17,000 steps without even trying because she was running around doing errands all day, taking her daughter places and playing with her daughter. So alhamdulillah. Versus on the other day, she was struggling to get 10,000 steps because, with Ramadan, it's hectic. But point is, there's a lot of ways to get your steps in. So make sure you're being creative with this. Okay. So that is, but yeah, just remember the purpose of cardio is to burn calories, but you want to get multiple benefits for your time spent. So that's something you intrinsically enjoy that adds benefit to your life. And remember, cardio is often something temporary. We're just using it during the weight loss phase to get you into a deficit. But past that point, it is still good to live an active lifestyle. But if you even just go for a 10-minute walk after every meal, for a lot of people, that's enough cardio to lose weight. It's definitely enough cardio to maintain the weight loss. But even that, if that's not sustainable for you, if you just go for one 10-minute walk a day just for the purpose of reducing stress, not even for the purpose of burning calories, that's enough for some people to lose weight, but it's enough for everybody to maintain. It's a beneficial thing you can add to your life that will help you be better in every area of life, to where the multiple return on investment makes it something you want to incorporate regardless of the weight loss. Even if it made you gain weight, I would still make you walk for 10 minutes a day because it would help your life, okay? I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I mean, you understand the point, I hope. Okay, let's talk about those motivation issues. Okay, so the only reason why people struggle with motivation is because their reason is greater than their resistance, or they lack discipline. Now, the problem is, to get that initial ball rolling, it is good to have either some motivation, some external accountability or something, but I still like people to have that internal accountability, because whether or not you have me as a coach, somebody else as a coach, or you don't even have a coach, if you have strong inner motivation and your inner motivation, your inner reason is greater than the outer resistance, then you will always take action no matter how difficult it is, as long as your reason is greater than your resistance. It's the reason why we get out of bed for Fajr and hopefully inshallah tahajjud, even if we don't feel like it and we're tired and the bed is warm. It's the reason why we fast during Ramadan even though it hurts or it's hard or it's inconvenient, we get thirsty, right? It's the reason why we pray Tarawih even though it messes up our sleep schedule and our knees or whatever other sacrifices you're making for the sake of Allah, because your reason is greater than your resistance, because you care about the day of judgment, that you're willing to sacrifice dunya for deen. Okay, it's the reason why we're Muslim. Well, it's one of the reasons, and also because the Quran is very, very clear, like proof. Like there's no way that a human could have written that. Just look at the proofs. It's very self-evident. Like Allah has sent down a lot of proof. I mean, look, He preserved Pharaoh. Like I can go. There's another tangent that we'll do this some other time. But the point is, Islam is the truth. So that's why we follow it, because we believe in it, even when it's hard, okay? So reason versus resistance. If you can get your reason greater than your resistance, there's a button you can press inside your mind at any time to get yourself motivated and get yourself to take action. So the 5 biggest reasons why people want to actually get in shape is what I call the 5 whys. Energy, confidence, health, mental health, or deen. These are the 5 reasons why people want to make this change. So now you got to ask yourself, which one is the most important? Well, obviously deen is the most important, but what I mean by which is the most important is which one of these 5 reasons, okay, which one of these 5 reasons is the one that is being most urgently affected by your health / fitness / body fat or whatever you're seeking to change by getting into this fitness regimen, okay? And which ones are the most painful and uncomfortable? If we can make the pain and discomfort of the consequences that you're currently facing as a result of the physical condition that you're in greater than the pain and discomfort of actually changing, then you're going to take action. Because right now you're sitting on this island, and this island is your comfort zone. Now, the island might be covered in poop.
I'm not sure I understand.
Siri is being annoying. If this island is covered in poop, okay, even if the island is covered in poop, you're still there because it's your comfort zone, okay? And we get stuck there and we get used to it. But then there's this island, which is our goals and dreams that we want to go to. But the problem is that we lack the courage and commitment to swim through the shark-infested water needed to actually get to that island. But if we can firebomb the poop-infested island to where the pain of staying on that firebomb island and dying is greater than the pain of swimming through the shark-infested water and risking getting eaten by a shark, that's when you're finally going to go, because the reason is finally greater than the resistance. The discomfort of staying the same, the pain of staying the same, is finally greater than the discomfort and pain of making a change, so you'll finally change. So here's some examples of some of the things that many of my clients have told me is the reason that drove them to change, move, and grow past their comfort zone and achieve their desired destination results. Let's talk about energy. So if somebody says, hey, I have no energy, I can't focus at work, I can't perform at work, I'm making less money because I can't get the promotion because I'm underperforming, or I can't scale my business and I'm stuck at this certain level. Okay, I have no energy at the end of my day to play with my kids. My wife is unhappy with me. My husband's unhappy with me because I lack the energy to fulfill my Islamic duties and responsibilities inside of this marriage. And intimacy is being affected. So it's affecting their money, their marriage, their children, everything. Their children are becoming more and more distant because they don't have the energy to play with their kids. And it's affecting their prayers. Okay, if somebody tells me that about their energy, and that usually is alone enough urgency for them to change right away. However, sometimes you got to twist the knife a little bit, and you got to ask somebody, hey, have you ever considered the potential ramifications of the way that you're going? And somebody says, well, no, I haven't. You say, okay, great. Well, let's talk about the 3 things it's affecting because of your energy levels: your money, your family, and most importantly, your deen. So money-wise, how much money are you going to leave on the table for the next 10, 20 years if you don't fix this? Hundreds of thousands of dollars. Okay, well, that's enough motivation to change. You're making hundreds of thousands of dollars just for learning how to eat properly and work out. Well, that's pretty compelling right there because it's going to fix your energy. Okay, how about, and having the right environment around you? How about with your family situation? What's going to happen if you don't fix this? Well, I might have a divorce. Okay, cool. The emotional damage aside, how much does a divorce cost? Like 20 grand plus all this other stuff, plus your kids grow up in a broken home. And I'm not trying to say anything about single parents. Sometimes it has to happen. But at the same time, if you can prevent it, then prevent it. Okay, what about your deen? What's going to happen if your knees keep creaking when you're praying, and you're only 40 years old right now, and you barely have energy, and you're breathing hard when you get up from sujood? Well, I'm not going to be able to worship Allah the way I want to when I'm 70. I might fall in the shower and die when I'm 70. Well, that's priceless to fix that. The deen, the mobility, the ability to not have to be in a chair when you're praying. And sometimes things happen. Like I've seen young guys who maybe they hurt their knee playing football or something, and they have to sit in a chair when they're praying. Even me, I almost considered sitting in a chair when I was praying because my knee was hurting from all this tarawih and qiyam. But all jokes aside, not that it's a joke, but the point is, these things become so much more dire and urgent that we now have the desire to change. Okay, let's talk about confidence. So usually it's single people who tell me this one, right? Where they're struggling to get married. Okay, this is a huge problem that our youth have these days, right? And so I've had guys tell me that they're going to have to settle for somebody who they're not truly attracted to because they lack the confidence in themselves, because they lack the integrity within their own body to achieve the goals that they've wanted to achieve for years. That's a huge urgent driver that gives them enough motivation to finally learn how to eat properly and do it properly and be disciplined and do what they need to do to lose weight, get in shape, and be in integrity with themselves and build discipline and finally be the man that they want to be. Same thing with a lot of sisters. A lot of sisters, complain that they are struggling to find a man because they don't have the body image or body confidence to feel attractive. Same thing. And so they're not really meeting the quality of man that they want to meet. And so they feel that fitness is going to be the thing that's going to get them in the shape they want to be in, so that they have the confidence to be with the quality of man that they want to be in. So again, but also actually a lot of married sisters tell me that their intimacy with their husband has decreased since they gained a bunch of weight. Maybe it didn't happen after their first kid. Maybe it didn't happen after their second kid. Maybe it was their third or fourth kid. Something about the more kids you have, the more risk you have of having some hormonal, issues after pregnancy that make it hard to lose weight. And I have a bunch of videos coming on that soon, inshallah. But even just women who kind of let themselves go and ate a bunch of junk food and stopped working out when they got married, even before they have kids, struggle with this. And then furthermore, and this ties in with Dean, I had somebody who she signed up because she wanted to lose weight so that she could go to Hajj and Umrah because she wasn't in good shape and she didn't have the cardio capacity to do so. And even though she only lost 20 pounds and she actually still wants to lose more, already her cardio capacity is where it needs to be for her to do Hajj and Umrah, alhamdulillah. So Dean was her driver that made her feel this was the right decision to actually fix this, right? Same thing. I mean, there's so many depths you can go into. Health. Now, whenever somebody tells me that health is their motivation, I say, great, are there any specific health issues that you have in your family? And a lot of people tell me diabetes, cholesterol, heart disease. My older brother just had a stroke. My older brother just had a heart attack and died, right? My dad had a heart attack at this age. People will tell me that, right? And so then I say, okay, great. So what would happen if you continue down the road you're going on? Well, they're like, well, I'd probably have a heart attack at this age too, and I'm going to leave my kids behind without a father. Well, subhanAllah, or without a mother. And then that becomes their motivation. They do it for their kids. So instead of saying, I'm out of shape because of my kids, because they take so much time and energy and focus, they say, I'm getting in shape because of my kids, because I need to be there for them. So your very obstacle now becomes your piece of reason to actually do this. And so whenever I'm talking to somebody on a consultation about any of these things, right? Mental health and deen aspect, we talked about it affecting your knees when you pray, about breathing hard when you get up from sujood, all that stuff, or even just from wanting to honor the body Allah gave you and reach your full potential, be a more disciplined version of yourself. There's so many reasons. And in the interest of time, I'm not going to go on a tangent for every one of these reasons, but this is the reason why, or these are the reasons why people are able to sit with themselves and say, hey, now that I've talked about this, I now want to do this badly enough because I've talked about my pain and I've realized how much pain that my lack of achieving my goals is causing me. I finally now have the motivation to want to do this, as opposed to before where I didn't really want it bad enough to take action. I'm finally ready to take action. So what I always ask somebody is, whether or not you do my program, now that you've thought about these reasons for yourself, are you now at a point where you're 10 out of 10 committed to actually fix this problem and achieve your goals? If say anything less than that, then we have to go deeper. But if they get a 10 out of 10, regardless of whether it's with me in my program or with somebody else or just on their own, they need to get that 10 out of 10 commitment level so that they can be successful and stick it out when it gets hard. And this is one of the requirements for joining our program, is you have to be 10 out of 10 committed, because we're not going to let somebody in the mastermind if they're not 10 out of 10 committed, because we can have people bringing the energy down. Okay? Now, once you've gotten to that level of motivation, that's what's going to allow you to be successful. And then don't just focus on the pain. Okay? 20% max of your attention should be on the pain. I mean, it's helpful to help you get started, but once you've gotten the ball rolling, you want to focus on the opposite of that, which is, let's say that you were in my program and you lost like all the weight you wanted to lose over the next 3 to 6 months. What would that ultimately give you at the end of the day? And then you want to focus on that, which is, wow, my kids would look up to me. They would respect me. I'd have intimacy with my wife again. I'd have intimacy with my husband again. It would fix my marriage. I wouldn't get divorced. Instead, our marriage would be better than ever. We could have even more kids, or just be a healthier, happier household for my kids. My kids who are growing up, who previously, now my little kids were getting overweight because they see their parent getting overweight, and now kids are picking on them, and that's why I want to do this. Now my kids are getting fit, and now they're becoming, a leader at their school, and, giving da'wah and inviting others to the deen, mashallah. Or maybe you're being an example in your workplace and inviting others to the deen. Now you're getting the ultimate sadaqah jariyah, which is converting somebody to Islam through the example of how great you are, whatever it may be. Or now you can finally go to Umrah. Now you finally have the energy to scale your business and, make millions more, or make hundreds of thousands more, get those promotions in your career. Maybe now you finally have the energy and confidence to attract a spouse into your life who's of the quality that you want, and now you feel that you deserve that person because you're the best version of yourself. Or the most important one, now you can finally be the best Muslim you can be because you've built the discipline and you're physically able-bodied and you're honoring the body Allah gave you. Focus on those things. Once you've used the pain to hold yourself accountable to get started, now you want to use the possibility, the positives, to motivate yourself to keep going. This is the ultimate framework. I've learned this from amazing mentors. Every time that I neglect to have this uncomfortable conversation with somebody about their pain before we talk about their goals, is almost always resulted in somebody being less committed and not getting the best results. Versus when you do this on the front end, pain first to get yourself accountable to start, but then possibilities, so we have positive things to focus on that keep us motivated once we've started to take action and finally gotten started. This is what has allowed people to have crazy levels of commitment and see crazy levels of success in every area of their life. Now, when I say it allows them, of course, it's all by the permission of Allah. But the means by which Allah made this happen is through that person finally having a reason that's greater than the resistance, so they finally take action. Because if your resistance is greater than your reason, then you're never going to take action. So my job as a coach is to increase your reason by motivating you and holding you accountable and putting you in the right environment, but also reduce your resistance by giving you a training and nutrition plan that you can actually sustain and enjoy. And that's the magic combo that leads to success, and that's the key with everything I'm teaching you today. So, miscellaneous psychological issues. Now this video is already an hour and a half long, so I'm going to kind of skip through these. Binge eating, stress eating, emotional eating. Most of these are issues that we can solve. However, and part of that is strategic snacks. Like, let's say that you're a binge eater or a stress eater. We want to find healthier ways to deal with that stress. We want to be strategic in eating more calories earlier in the day so you're less hungry later in the day. But and eating filling foods so you don't feel the need to binge eat, but also for the stress and emotional eating, finding healthier outlets for that, like going for walks, going to the gym, journaling, different things. But then also having strategic snacks where if you're craving something sweet or salty later in the day, as you saw in the meal plan examples, we can have those things as part of a late night snack. Now for people with severe issues like bulimia, anorexia, we have had some people with those issues who we help them solve, but usually they were also seeing a professional therapist. And whenever somebody comes to me with those issues, I usually say, hey, that's kind of beyond my scope. I recommend you see a professional therapist if that's your most significant issue. If it's a more minor issue where it's just like, hey, it's just stress eating, but if I had a meal plan that fit all the criteria you just explained, then actually it would work. Those people were able to solve it for without the need for a therapist. But for somebody who's like, yeah, I'm bulimic, I would say go see somebody like that first. And that is kind of all I'm going to go into this one because we're already like way behind on schedule. Now, fixing your metabolism. We covered this a bit today throughout the other sections, and this should be enough to solve 80 to 90% of cases because usually the metabolism is not as damaged as you think. I do have other videos on this, like my reverse dieting video that you can watch right now, but also next week I'm actually going to be having a couple more videos for this, inshallah. So if you aren't already subscribed to the YouTube, please do. If you aren't already following on Instagram, make sure that you do so you don't miss out on this. And moving forward, inshallah, what I plan on doing when I'm not traveling, which for the next 3 weeks I don't plan on traveling, inshallah, is doing a weekly theme. And the 4 themes that I intend on covering next week after Ramadan ends, by the will and permission of Allah, are metabolism, hypothyroidism, men's testosterone levels, and PCOS, which is a hormonal condition that a lot of women experience and makes it hard for them to lose weight. Okay? So please keep me in your du'as. Please make dua that Allah enables me to make amazing videos for those that are a little more concise than this one because it was a little too in-depth, or too many tangents. And I'm also going to put together a PDF for this one, inshallah, soon, which I'll attach below. And for details on our professional coaching services, I'm also going to attach an info link below to the men's program and the women's program, which also includes the pricing at the bottom of the page so that you also understand the investment before you book the call, so that you make sure that this is something that is potentially affordable for you, inshallah. And if not, obviously we got a ton of free content to help people who are in more of a tight financial position who can't afford the program. And then make sure that you share with friends and thumbs up this video if you found it valuable. Obviously I put a lot of time into not only shooting this an hour and a half, but also into making these slides, researching this information, plus 7 years and 1,000+ clients worth of experience. There's a lot of time and hundreds of thousands of dollars technically that went into this video. So it helps me to reach more people through the algorithm when you share this if you found it valuable. So share it with somebody who you think would find it valuable, or if you don't even know somebody who you think would find this valuable, at least thumbs it up if you found it valuable. And inshallah, I'm excited to see you guys in the next video. So that is it. I got to run. This video is already pretty long, but I hope that it was worth staying for the whole thing, and I'm sure it was if you're here right now. So jazakallah khair for your time, for your attention, and please keep me posted in the comments if you have any questions or if there's anything else I can do for you. And stay tuned for the next video, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.